Hello, fabulous Cheltenham fanatics. Welcome to our GG.CO.UK Cheltenham Festival preview. Now, this is going to be a bumper show, so you might want to pause us at some point and grab yourself a cuppa or something a bit stronger. We've also got an extra feature, and it's going to be the Daryl, the Andrew challenge. This is news to the guys also. So all the guys' tips are going to be settled at SP, and the loser will have to do a forfeit on our next show after Cheltenham. So no extra pressure, guys. We start with Tuesday, of course, on the old course, and the feature race is the Champion Hurdle, which, of course, went to Nikki Henderson, reopposing Embittered. But we start with the Supreme Novices coming up, and surely the drying ground, you think, isn't a positive for this short prize favourite, been ploughing through that wet Irish ground, Daryl.
Yeah, this is a favourite I've been trying to get beat for a long time now. I've been going through and through this race. I suppose, like many people, it's very difficult. It's a very weak year this year. It's not going to be the best renewal we'll ever see. Appreciate it. Is the rightful favourite on what he's done on the races that he's won. He is a 7-year-old. The 7-year-old stat gets thrown around quite a bit. Now, I don't think it's the fact that it's just a sheer number of being a 7-year-old. I think it's the fact that at the start of the season he might be a little bit more forward than a lot of other of his rivals in terms of the novices. And then when it gets to the spring, others have improved physically, mentally, and they could just overtake the 7-year-old at the spring festivals. Look, I think he's been well positioned in his 3 races in Ireland. I think he's always sat on the front end. I think he's dictated the pace in the future champion of novice, the Chanel Farmer. Sorry, I thought he dictated the pace on the front end. Blue Lord actually recorded the same fractions as Appreciated did in that race, but they were ridden at 2 ends of the field. So I don't think he's as far clear as everybody thinks he is. For all, it is very difficult to find something to take him on. The one I've settled on for this is Metier. His time figures are on par to suggest he's a 152 horse, around that sort of mark. At Ascot, he ran the same sort of speed figures as Buzz did on the same card. Buzz is obviously a very useful horse. Metier, he's only had the 3 starts. He's improving all the time. I know he's been running on soft and heavy ground, but he actually recorded his highest top speed figure on the flat on good to soft ground. He was rapid over a mile. He's got a nice turn of foot. He travels well. We just don't know what he's got to come. He's never been off the bridle. He jumps well. I think he's the best of the British runners. You know, look, Buzz was beaten by Soaring Glory, so there's a sort of a form line through them there. But Buzz was attempting to give Soaring Glory a stone, and you know, he was only beaten 5 lengths. So I do think that Metier is going to be there or thereabouts over the years. If you've been rated in the 150s, which 2 of these are, or on my figures, Metier is a 150 horse. He's 149 officially. But I think these 2 are going to be there or thereabouts. I think you can back Metier each way, and hopefully he does appreciate it for a turn of foot. I can't have the likes of Ballyadam for me. I know a lot of people fancy this horse, saying that on better spring ground he might be able to reverse the form for Appreciate. I can't see it. He's been behind him twice. And at Fairyhouse, the figures were very, very slow when he won the Royal Bond. So I'm looking past here. If Bob Olinger drops back in here, that I've been banging on about for a long, long time, then he's got a massive chance. But there is just one to mention, a huge price in this race. I don't know if he's going to go in here or he's going to go to the Ballymore, but I definitely think he's coming to Cheltenham. I've backed him for both. He's 40-1. It's a horse called Jungle Boogie for Willie Mullins. This horse was really impressive in a Clonmel bumper before going and winning his maiden hurdle with 30 lengths. Now, he didn't really beat anything at all there, but just the manner in which he did it marked him down as a very useful type going forward. He recorded an RPR of 135 that day. They're going to roll the dice because the owner does like to have runners at Cheltenham. They're going to roll the dice, and whether or not he goes to the Supreme or the Ballymore, I would probably lean towards the Ballymore. He did win over 2.5 at Punchestown, but Jungle Boogie is definitely one to keep an eye on. But I've settled this race, and if Bob Olinger doesn't come in here, Metier is the one I'm going to be signing with each way.
Yeah, Jungle Boogie beat a big field, didn't he, at Punchestown last time out, and is a massive price. So Daryl taking on the favourite with Metier. I think he's about second in at the moment. Andrew?
Well, I'm worried about this tipping challenge now. So all my each way.
Come on, Andrew.
All my speculative each way selections. I mean, is it going to be half a point each way or 1 point win? What's going on here? So yeah, my solicitors my solicitors are currently writing to yours. So yeah, I'm going to take on Anticipate It, the price, the 7-year-old stats. I'm not too worried about the ground. I mean, looking out of my window now, it's absolutely chucking down, and there's plenty of rain forecast between now and the start of the meeting. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I mean, he has been here to the festival before and been beaten when second in the bumper last year. So I could see him running well without winning, probably finishing second or third. And at the price, I'm happy to leave him alone. I've bet Benson each way around about 50-1 at the time of recording. He's done really well since wind surgery, 3 wins and a 4th from 4 starts. Ran an astonishing race last time out at Ascot, finishing 4th of the 17 runners in a Grade 3 handicap hurdle. Tailed off at one stage, only beaten 6 lengths in the end. He hasn't run left-handed for a while, which could be a concern, but then he's 50-1, so there's bound to be a concern. He prepped in a handicap, and people will tell you that you don't win the Supreme by doing that. But then, not that many have tried, and we've seen plenty go close, like My Tent or Yours and Kalashnikov. So, each way Benson for me. Others worth a mention. I'm quite keen on Metier as well, as Daryl is. And Grumpy Charley could go well at a big price as well for the Chris Honour yard. Ran second to Adramel on his first start for the stable after leaving David Pipe's care. I put him up as an each-way bet next time at Newbury. He finished a close 5th, and since then he's done nothing but win 3 from 3. He's got some speed figures that put him bang in contention, and he's a 50-1 shot as well. So an interesting opener, and given the history of shocks in this race over the year, just fire off an arrow or two at one at a big price, and my lucky pins come down on the side of Benson.
Okay. Benson each way then for you, as you say, about 50-1, I think, big price. And Metier for Andrew, that's the Supreme. 1 down, 84 to go. The next up is, of course, the Arkle Novices Chase. And obviously, we've got All Mankind in here, like him and Ergomain. Both of them like to be prominent. Are they going to set this up for something else, which, of course, could be Shishkin, who has not been missed in the betting, Andrew?
Interesting. You talk about the pace angle. All Mankind will surely lead, as he did do in the Triumph last year. And Ergoman will track him. I'm sure they're not going to get into a ding-dong battle from the outset. That would be, obviously foolish. I'm sure Ergoman will just be happy to take a lead from the skeleton horse. Bit of a worry how All Mankind jumped at Warwick last time. I know he won, but he did clout a couple, and I can see him perhaps, going off a bit too hard here, maybe making a mistake and ending up finishing out of the frame. And Nergerman's jumping out to his right didn't stop him winning at the DRF, but it is a bit of a worry here at Cheltenham. So I think this is Shishkin's to lose. He's round about even money at the moment. I think you'll look back at a week after Cheltenham and think, of all the skinny ones, why didn't I back that one? I'd much rather back him at that sort of price than Chacun Pour Soi, for example, which we'll come to later on. So I think Shishkin wins. He's been very impressive. I know it's only been small field races he's been winning, but he's been doing so in a fast time. He's been impressing with his jumping. Very much reminds me of Sprinter Sacre, the way he jumps his fences, and I think Shishkin will win this.
Yeah, me too. Of all the bankers of the week, he does look a good one. Obviously, there will be no room for error, I'm sure. And as Andrew said, All Mankind can make some, which obviously could be an issue. Agree or disagree, Daryl?
I agree. I don't think it's going to be as easy as we sort of make out. I think he's got a very worthy opponent in Ergomain here. The fractions that Ergomain set last time out at the Down Royal Festival were very good, on par with that of Chacun Pour Soi, and Chacun Pour Soi is a heavy favourite for the Champion Chase. So this is not going to be easy for Shishkin. It does look like things might set up for him. I couldn't give All Mankind any chance whatsoever. He's got about £10 to find at least with the 2 at the top of the market. He's a bold front runner. His jumpings go on a pot slowly throughout the season. He picked up a couple of weak races early on. I think he's a pace angle in here. The issue with this is that Dan Skelton and Harry Skelton would know that All Mankind is being looked at as a pace angle. So whether he will go and blast off, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he might try and ride him a little bit more reservedly, and Ergomain just to sit on the side of him. So it might not be the race that is set up for Shishkin as we think. But I do think Shishkin is his to lose. I love the way he jumps a fence. He doesn't lose any momentum. He's over and gone. Whereas Energumene can sometimes get up and down over a fence. He can adjust slightly to his right. If he does that at the top of the hill here on this sharp old course, he's going to lose a lot of ground. Look, they're very, very good horses. Energumene has been talked up something rotten over in Ireland, like he is the next best thing. So this is going to be one hell of a race. Is it one to go and lump on? Probably not. Probably put Shishkin, probably put Energumene in two different ACCAs, and hopefully they run on during the week. That would be the way I'd play it. Outside of those two, I thought Captain Guinness was the one perhaps that could fill the frame. I can see All Mankind not really getting home and just sort of like he did in the Triumph, being beaten on the turn into the home straight. And Captain Guinness had plenty left when he fell in the Supreme, when he was brought down in the Supreme, rather, behind Shishkin. We don't really know what he would have given. His jumping has not been great, but he was getting closer to Energumene than he was at Nace at Leopardstown last time. So he could be a player. He's 16-1 shot. Perhaps look with the without markets, take out Shishkin, take out Energumene, back him each way in the without markets. I think there's angles there to be played, but in terms of a hefty bet, this won't be one of the races I'll be having a hefty bet in, but it's going to be a cracker, that's for sure. Just favour Shishkin, perhaps Captain Guinness to hit the frame.
Yeah, I think we all do. It's, as you say, not an easy betting race, I'm sure, to try and take on. Shishkin, that's the 155, the Arkle Novices Chase then. The 230 is the Ultima. Looking forward to this. And again, a difficult betting heat. Andrew, as happy-go-lucky, is just about at the top at sixes, I think.
Yeah, happy-go-lucky, because ran well at the festival last year in the Martin Pipe conditional jockeys race, and I think that's a race that could be key to several other races at this year's festival. And he's short enough now for me at the head of the market. Wouldn't surprise me if he won. And Lieutenant Rocco next in, I'm not so keen on because he tends to do his winning from the front in small fields on heavy ground. This is a completely different test, and it might not suit him. This generally hasn't been a race for the Irish, which would concern me over Escaria 10. And the one I keep coming back to is one for the team, for Nick Williams, who of course won this with Kustar Sivler a few years ago. Now, he looked like he'd been campaigned for this race. First time out over fences. He started favourite at Newbury, which was unusual because Nick's chasers generally need their first run over the larger obstacles to get used to jumping. He tends not to do extensive schooling at home. He unseated, that was at Newbury behind Kaluki.
Your favourite jockey was on board.
Exactly, Chester. Bless his little cotton socks. But he is riding well of late, I will say that now, just in case I get in trouble again. And but he's reversed the form with the winner next time when an 8-1 second to Next Destination. Again at Newbury in graded company. He's gone to the Corto Star Novices Chase at Kempton on Boxing Day, a Grade 1 contest. And he's almost, looks like a non-trier there at a Grade 1. He's taken the Adam Condrat route right wide round the outside, stayed out of trouble, run on to a respectable fifth. So you think, well, obviously he's been laid out. After that run, I had about 6 people phone me up within a week and say, is he the one? Is he the one? Is this the one? Is he going for the Ultima? And I spoke to Nick shortly before he made his handicap debut in the Sky Bet Chase at Doncaster. And I think the problem there was the soft ground. He's been well supported. He's finished 5th. He's raced around the inside, which looked badly cut up. And he drifted as a result, having been the early favourite. But he started to come in again the last few days. Went out to about 18-1, 20-1, now back into 10-1. I think if the ground is riding quicker than it was at Doncaster, which looks almost certain, given the trainer's pedigree in handicaps at the Cheltenham Festival in general, you can back all of Nick's runners each way and make a very good profit over the years. 12 of the 30 have been in the first 5. I think one for the team is the way to go here.
Okay, that sounds confident as well. 11s-ish.
That'll do. And again, this has been a race for those near the head of the market in recent years.
Okay. Daryl?
Yeah, I agree with Andy. Andrew about one for the team. We both fancied him for that Sky Bet race at Doncaster. Unfortunately, it just didn't get home in the soft ground. And like Andy said, he was round the inside round. Just was a bit of a bog round there. The one I came down on was actually I Right. I put this horse up for GG on the back of last year's festival as one to keep an eye on. He was 5th in the RSA last year, and he did remarkably well for such a long time. He made big mistakes that day. And they just took their toll in the finish, I think, in the RSA. He walked through the 5th. He smashed the 12th. And blundered and pecked 4 out, but he was still bang there on the turn into the home straight. He's not obviously up to that level. This mark of 154 is obviously high, without winning. He has gone up the weights without winning, but he deserves to get his head in front. He was second to the 160 rated Nuts Well over an inadequate whip of 2 miles this season. Then second in the Ladbroke, which is a great pointer to this race over the years, behind Cloth Cap. Attempted to give a stone to Cloth Cap there, who's now, bolted up at Kelso since, and the favourite for the Grand National, and going to go on to big and better things. Third in that Ladbroke was the Conditional, who won this race last year. Ran a blinder in the Skybet chase on soft ground, finished second off 151. He's £3 higher here. The better ground will suit him. Like I say, he's not the best handicapped horse in the race, but I do think he is still improving, and he's only an 8-year-old. He might be able to scrape home here. I think he'll be there or thereabouts. There's a couple of big prices that are worth looking at. I mean, we've not got the final fields for this yet, but for the purposes of this forfeit, I will put I right down. Corto Rico is very interesting. A big price. About 33 to 1, stepping back up to 3 miles for just the second time. He tired in dire conditions at Kelso last time in heavy ground behind Definitely Red. There was 5 fences omitted that day, so that'll tell you how bad the ground was. He's definitely worth another chance over 3 miles, especially how he was staying on at Cheltenham in the Paddy Power when last seen behind Cool Cody over 2 miles 4. So he's definitely interesting. He's been to the festival before, was 8th 2 years ago behind Sire de Lac in the plate. I think he's a very interesting horse. Almadam, you could make a case for. Sorry.
He's got an incredible record fresh as well, Corto Rico.
Yeah,
that Paddy
they've
Power
given him a break
first time out. He almost won the Peterborough Chase. I think it was at 100 to 1 first time out a couple of years ago. So the fact they've left him off since that comeback run in November is a big positive for him.
Yeah, 122 days off, second run after a wind up as well. So there are positives for him to come through. He doesn't meet many of the stats for this race. If you're going through the stats, he'll fall short on quite a lot of them. I mean, he's a 10-year-old, but he's a big price, and I suspect that this is the plan. So 33 to 1, he would be of interest to me. But there's plenty you can make case for the sake of this. Let's put I right down at around 12 to 1.
Okay. So 1 for the team for Andrew, I right for Daryl. That's the Ultima. We've then got the feature, of course, Champion Hurdle to cover. I've got one for this. Obviously, we haven't all got fancies in all of the races. Silver Streak is going to be the one that I'm going to bet on the day. Evan Williams has been really confident about this horse, hasn't he? Adamant that he's a horse that tries so very hard on, regardless of the ground, and on heavy ground, it's not his thing, but he still tries hard. So drier ground, I think, hopefully, I agree with Evan, and we're going to see a different horse. So Silver Streak is going to be the pick for me in the Champion Hurdle. But what about Honeysuckle? Obviously, a horse who's impossible to dislike, but did everything work out perfectly for her, do we think, in the Irish Champion Hurdle, Daryl?
Oh, I've got so much to say about this horse. I'm just not as impressed as everybody else is. I'm really not with that Irish Champion Hurdle win. For the start of the form of it, it's not great. Abacadabras has not been himself this year since Cheltenham. If you watch Abacadabras when he's trying to chase home Honeysuckle at Leopardstown in that straight, he's turning his head to the side. Jack Kennedy is trying his hardest. The horse doesn't want to do it. He is a nuisance. I think he's got a few screws loose. I don't think he wants to fully go through it. Sharjah never performs at that meeting. Sam Roy has done nothing since winning that county hurdle when well handicapped. Petit Mouchoir is long gone. There was beaten next time out in receipt of weight from Jason the Militant, and sadly there isn't the horse he was. Now, it's not just the bare form that I've got an issue with, it's the way the race was run. A lot of races in Ireland are run in tactical affairs, and Honeysuckle was just sat on the quarters of Petit Mouchoir. She took up the lead at about 4 out. Right, she stole 2 lengths in front of Petit Mouchoir, about 4 out. Took the lead up. No one moved. There were 4 of them at the back. Sharjah, Abacadabra, Samroy, Saudier. None of them moved. They let her steal a couple of lengths. Gets to between the 4th and the 3rd last. She jumps the 3rd last, steals another couple of lengths. Still, to my amazement, when I keep watching it back, nobody's moving. Nobody's trying to cover the move of Honeysuckle. Yeah. She gets to the bend, and she's done this time and time again. As soon as Rachel gets to the bend, she'll kick. And she kicks away from them. They didn't move when she kicked. They only moved once they turned into the home straight. And by that time, Honeysuckle's built up 5 or 6 length lead, and they're not going to get to her. She comes down to the last. She slows into it. She makes a hash of the last, and then she just gets home. I am not entirely convinced that she's fast enough for this championship pace, because every race she's running this season, they've been dictated at slow paces. The time before at Ferryhouse, they turned into a sprint from 3 out to the finish. She just beat Ronald Pump, who's a 3-miler. In third was Beacon Edge, who's better over further. Wouldn't have suited the both of them. You go back to her running the Mayor's Hurdle last year with Benny de Jure. She stole that again on the inside route when obviously Benny had to pull wide around her. Rachel again kicked for home. But if you rewind slightly in that race, she was outpaced coming down the hill, jumping the third last or the second last. And I'm just not as convinced as everybody else is that she's a natural 2-miler. Like I say, she hung on by Benny de Jure. The year before, she beat Darva Star by half a length. That form wouldn't be good enough in terms of Embittered spanked Darva Star in the champion hurdle. So I just think she's well worth taking on. I played the races side by side with her, Gosha and Embittered. She just doesn't seem to be quick enough in terms of the ability to move her legs. I'm yet to really see her in a truly run race where she can have the speed to cope with it. And that, for me, is what's going to happen this year. I don't think this is going to be a normal year where you're looking for a horse perhaps like Embittered last year, where the race is going to be won just before the last. So you jump the last, you've got a quick turn of foot and you get away. I think this is going to be hell for leather from the get-go. And there's only one horse I want on my side when that's going to happen, and that's going to be Goshen. I think this horse is a freak. I really do. And I know a lot of people are writing him off and not giving him a chance. Look, I'm a dreamer, but I'm not a fantasist, right? I think this horse is very good.
That's going to be a headline.
I am a dreamer. Look, Arkle. Like, people go back to Arkle and talk about 5-year-olds. Arkle was the best Triumph Hurdle winner, but he ran in. He couldn't win a champion hurdle, but he ran in the Hurricane Fly era. Peace and Co was the other horse to record a higher RPR at a Triumph Hurdle than Goshen. He ran around in Annie Power's era. What are we running in this era? Or Abracadabras and Honeysuckle era? No, come on, give over. I think this is a fantastic chance for him. I think redemption is on the cards for last year. He was blistering last year in that Triumph Hurdle. He won his 4 starts by a combined distance of 90 lengths. I mean, people are knocking this horse, saying that he's disappointed a few times. When is he disappointed? The only time he's disappointed is when he had a fibrillating heart in the international. You can forgive that. Forget the flat runs. That means absolutely nothing when it comes to this. I think he's a very good horse. I think he's a freak. I'd love to see him absolutely batter these. He's going to come round into the home straight. That's where it's going to be won this year, I think, at the top of the turn into the home straight. If they can catch him and they're good enough to go by him, then so be it. But I think Goshen, I'd rather take a chance on Goshen than back the 2 mares, to be honest.
Okay. Andrew?
Yeah, amazing race. So Abracadabras was one that I had on my radar when I did a preview with Daryl, talking about the bigger field and stronger pace will suit him. Certainly wouldn't put you off that one each way. Silver Streaker, I napped 2 years ago and put him up as an each way bet in my column at 100-1 when he's third at 80s in the end. Didn't run so well last year, but Evan Williams this year says he's finally started believing he's a genuine Grade 1 animal, and he's trained him as such. He goes incredibly well when fresh, so he's been off since Boxing Day. That's a positive. Ideally, you'd want good or good to soft ground. He very rarely gets it because in midwinter, but there's half a chance we might get something closer to good to soft than soft this time, so that's going to help him as well. So he's drifted to a backable price now, 16-1. Further down the field, James the Militant's one that I've backed. Sorry, Jason the Militant, one I've backed today. He seems to have improved for the tongue tie. He was a close-up third at Punchestown, beaten half a length behind Abracadabras. He's won very easily at Fairyhouse next time, despite going out to his left. I think he's going to improve for coming back to a left-handed track again. And one at a silly price, 100-1 in places, is Buzz. Nicky Henderson's runner, who was in the Betfair Hurdle last time out. Basically, he just runs the same race every time. He travels strongly, off a strong pace, in a big field, comes through to look like the likely winner, and then usually find one or two too good. So if he runs here instead of the Coral Cup...
I think he's going to Aintree. Sorry, right. Andrew. I think he's going to Aintree over 2.5.
Got you. But if he turned up at Cheltenham, you could back him each way. But I'm going to put up Jason the Militant as my selection. I'll probably have a few in the race in the end. Abracadabra, Silver Streak as well. But I think at the current prices, Jason the Militant each way, 33-1 is where I'm going.
Okay.
As long as you back Goshen in those couple, you'll be all right, Andrew. Don't worry about it.
It's to win the challenge. He was going to go with Silver Streak, and now he knows the challenge. He's going with the 33-1 shot. So Jason the Militant for Andrew, as you just heard. Silver Streak for me, and Goshen for Daryl. So I don't know whether we're making it any easier for you, but there you go. The Close Brothers Mares Hurdle, and we've got, of course, Roxana in here. Interesting for the Skelton's yard, are just going so well, and they have been for so long, having trebles and four winners all over the place and being under their wing. Nearly, that's just good enough reason, isn't it, at the minute, Daryl?
Yeah, they're in fantastic form. Look, I couldn't have Roxana. I think all of her improvement has come over 3 miles. I think people are using the 3 mile form to justify backing her for this race over 2.5 miles. It just doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. She improved for that step up and trip. She'd always looked like she was crying out for 3 miles. And look what she's done. She's beaten Next Destination, a very brilliant stayer. 2 lengths off Paisley Park, and beating Magic Light in incredible fashion, really, at Ascot by 8 lengths. Why on earth you'd want to drop back to this trip, I don't know, especially when you've got Concertista in here, who I think is the best mare around at this sort of trip. She's got the Cheltenham Festival experience. She absolutely bolted up last year. She's looked better than ever this year at Leopardstown at Ferry House, albeit she's beaten Manila Melody twice, but she can only beat what's in front of her. She looks more like a gelding than she does a mare. She's absolutely huge. I think this is a banker of the day. I think this is a certainty.
Do you? Concertista then makes that straightforward for Daryl. Andrew?
Yeah, we should also mention that Honeysuckle is still entered in this race, and we've seen late switch-arounds before at Cheltenham to take people by surprise. So, do bear in mind if you're backing Concertista at the best price 11 to 10, that might look good if Honeysuckle, as we assume, it goes to the Champion Hurdle, but that's not set in stone yet. I've put up a bet here, Dolcita each way for Fergal O'Brien, 50 to 1. Last year in the 2 mile 1 mares Novice Hurdle, when Concertista won, she was trained by Willie Mullins at the time. She finished second, beaten 12 lengths as a 9 to 1 shot. Since then, she rocked up, had 1 start for Paul Nicholls, burst a blood vessel. And then last time she was at Warwick, first run for Fergal O'Brien, returning after a wind operation. I think at the time, Fergal's first time wind op horses were 1 from 46. And she's held up in a race that's run to suit those who are prominent, as most small field Warwick events are. She's finished third, beaten around 15 lengths, run pretty well in the circumstances, I thought. And now she's had that wind ops out the way, that stable debut's out the way. And we've seen in this race over the years, so many horses at massive prices have plugged on into the frame or, come from off the pace. What you tend to find is those sort of prominent racers, maybe the sort of 10, 12 to 1 shots in the betting, who think they've got a realistic chance. They get involved in a ding dong from an early stage with the cream of the Irish, the Mullins runners, and then they have their hearts broken. They fade out of place contention, and you see something at a huge price come through, plods on to finish second or third. And I thought Dolcita could do that. She's going to be ridden patiently. There was a lot more in that Warwick run than the market gives her credit for. So she's been to the festival before, albeit for a different yard, and finished second to Concertista. And now she's 50 to 1. So Dolcita each way for me here.
Yeah, big price. So complete opposite ends of the scales there. Concertista for Daryl, the favourite, and Dolcita second one after a wind up for Andrew is about 50 to 1. So huge price. That's for the Close Brothers. We've got the Boodles up next, haven't we? The Boodles at 4:15. We'll start with you, Daryl, if you like.
Yeah, this is interesting. This will be one of my more confident bets of the day, to be honest. I'm interested to see. I mean, we've still got a little bit of time. I'm interested to see who goes in here and who doesn't. I mean, I'm listening to a lot of rumours that Quilixidos is not going in here; he's going to the tryout. A lot of people backing this Who Girls. I thought St. Sam was the right favourite of a fair mark of 139, just based on what Zanna here has done. And I've had a bit of a U-turn in the Triumph Hurdle last night. So it made St. Sam look a better horse than what I originally thought he was. But then you could also give the same sort of chance to Bustleton as well, who's £4 better off with St. Sam for their 2 meetings. It's not a race I've got deeply involved in too much, simply because I don't really know who's going here. I do think that those horses that are rated in the mid 130s are where you want to be looking at. Although there could be well handicapped horses down at the 120s, I just think those that have been running just off graded company and have got a mark in the 130s are the ones you want to be focusing on. Saint Sam, I thought he did too much too soon last time and beaten by Quilixios. I like the way he ran on once he was headed again. Look, I've not got a confident selection for you, unfortunately, but Saint Sam would be the way I'd be leaning in there.
Okay, that's fine. Saint Sam then at about 10s, I think. Andrew?
Worrying stat for Daryl's pick there. Horses who finished second or third last time out, 0 from 135 in the Fred Winter. You tend to get two very specific sort of patterns of Fred Winter winners. They've either won last time out in a Class 3 or 4 contest, perhaps having their true ability disguised in a lower grade event, and so the handicapper doesn't clobber them, or they've run in a graded contest but finished out of the first 3. So perhaps they've shown form in their early hurdle starts in sort of maiden novice company, stepped up in class, and then just not tried to mix it with the big boys or girls, or not been able to, and then drop in class for this contest. So there's numerous who sort of qualify on both those angles. But Balco Saint, Chester Williams again, won a small race at Wincanton last time, picked up a penalty that might not be ideal. And his prominent style will be a slight concern as well, because the winner of this does tend to come from well back. Now, Jeff Kidder as a qualifier, Scholastic's interesting. But the one I'm going to come down the side is a horse called Homme for Oliver Greenall. First run since leaving France. He bumped into a horse called Tina Haller, who's also entered here, finishing second at Catterick in a very fast time. And then last time out, he's gone to Market Raise and he's won very easily indeed. And after which his trainer said that he was in need of the run when he was beaten at Catterick. So, that Market Raise and run was a Class 4 contest. I think 25-1 Homme could be the way to go here.
Okay. Homme, as you say, 25s I've got. And I think St. Sam at about 10s for Daryl. But as he said, not a strong selection there. Not sure what we're going to get. And probably the same with the last on day one as well. We're not sure who's going to go where. Obviously, at the minute, Royal Guy is about 7-4, Galvin 4-1, 8-1 Bard. Those. Do we have any strong selections in this? Views?
Royal Pagaille, I guess, assuming he runs here. He's got multiple entries. He's in the Gold Cup, of course. Yeah. I think he's still in the 3-mile novice. Some people have been concerned about his ability to handle good ground if it does dry out, but a friend of mine analysed his pedigree and thought he'd actually improve for better ground. So that's an interesting angle for him. Next destination, I would have thought go for the 3-miler and take on Monkfish. If he did run here, you'd be slightly concerned given Paul Nichols's poor record in this race over the years. I'm going to put one up at a big price as well, Sizing at Midnight. Colin Tizard, we've talked about often in these in our weekend watch videos that he's not been in the best of form most of the winter. Yeah. Recent signs have been more encouraging, and this is a horse who does his best work in the spring, summer on better ground. So if we do end up with good to soft or quicker ground come next week, then he could bounce back from a poor effort in the mud at Wincanton last time. So I'll go Sizing at Midnight, tentative each way here.
Okay, Daryl?
Yeah, I don't care about Paul Nicholls' record in this. I really don't. If next destination goes in here, he's got to have a massive chance. This horse just progressed this season. He won both his chase starts, saw off Fiddler on the Roof at Warwick, and really gutsy style going away at the finish. That was a blistering run. In fact, both his last 2 runs have been running at exceptional time figures. He was placed in the Ballymore third behind Samcro. If you go back and watch that race, he's staying on over that 2-mile 5 trip. 4th in the champion bumper before that. He was a dual grade 1 winner as a novice. He's been beaten just once over 3 miles and 3 starts, and that came on the back of a 920-day break to Roxana, who is pretty much the 3rd best 3-mile stayer around at the minute, arguably. I think he's got the class edge here. The track, trip, ground, all no concerns. I think everything's absolutely right for him. I think he'll relish this trip. He's a real out-and-out stayer, and he feels like he's been around for a long, long time, but he's only had 11 runs. He's unexposed. I think he's got an absolutely cracking chance if they run in here. I don't suspect Paul's had many dual Grade 1 novice hurdlers running in this race, and I think he jumps well. He goes at speed. He stays forever. I think I think he's got a huge chance. Even if Royal Pagaille runs in this, I think he's got a massive chance. I really, really do.
Okay. Well, we shall see. Not too long to wait. That's the end of day one, isn't it? We move on to our second day. And most importantly, it's Ladies' Day. Wednesday's on the old course. And obviously we get to see that wonderful cross-country race, which is always a sight to behold, we'll say. We start with the Ballymore, and obviously Brave Man's Game. It goes in here so good in the cello, and I think we all kind of know this horse is wasted over hurdles. Paul's been so adamant, he's such a big horse, such a big stride. Anything we get, I think, over hurdles for him is a bonus, but he does look like a really nice horse. What about the drying ground for him? Would that bother any of us, and especially if we're supposed to forecast some rain that Andrew thinks we are?
Yes, that to me, Leonna.
Yes.
Yeah, forget about Ladies' Day. It's my birthday. That's far more important. Goodness me. So,
well, happy birthday in advance.
Yeah, just a
What's
shame.
What's that? 70 what?
Steady. just a real shame that your birthdays coincides with St Patrick's Day and the Cheltenham Festival, and you can't go down there and
yes, that is a shame.
Have a drink. But I'm sure we'll be back next year. Yeah, this is an absolute cracker. I mean, I did have another good look at this race this morning, and was looking at the poor recent record of 5-year-olds, which might be a concern for Galliard de Menil, despite his impressive win at the Dublin Racing Festival last time. Yep. Bob Olinger, I know Daryl's a fan of, and again, he's edging favouritism now, and it's hard to knock his claims too much. And Brave Man's Game as well has been very impressive in the Cello last time, and owners Brian and Harry Drew live in my town, and I'd love to bump into them in the Cherry Tree and have a beer with them to celebrate this one's win. But it's super. Of the lot, I'm leaning towards Bob Olinger now at the head of the betting. There is one at a massive price that he's probably going to run at Sandown just before Cheltenham, which is Captain Morgs. He's entered in the EBF final for Nicky Henderson. I think he's 8.80 to 1 for this. He was beaten at odds on at Fakenham last time, but he raced in the swamp on the inside. They're probably going to take advantage of his handicap mark in that EBF final, but he could sneak into the frame here at a big price if he does run, as could Wild About Oscar for Dan Skelton. But they're talking about skipping Cheltenham with him this year. They think he's a very, very good horse, and maybe they'll miss the festival because they don't want to rush him. But Bob Olinger, of those at the head of the betting, didn't have a strong opinion. But if Captain Morgs runs here, have your 50p each way on as well.
Okay. Daryl?
Yeah, I think this is between the top three in the betting. Like I say, I hope Bob Olinger drops back to the Supreme, but I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I'll just reiterate my concern with Bob Olinger. I think he's a fantastic horse, and there's no way I'd want him to come in here because I don't really want to take him on. But I just don't feel that he was the strongest at the finish last time at when beating Blue Lord at Navan. I just thought all of his best work was done with a turn of foot, and just at the end of the race, I thought Blue Lord was actually the horse to take out of the race because he was so keen early on. And he was only beaten 6 lengths. And that day, Paul Townend just was easy on Blue Lord at the finish. And I just thought, yes, he's got the turn of foot. Yes, he's got the cruising speed. But does he want another furlong? And on that basis, I don't think he does. Now, the better ground may well help him see that out. I think he's a very, very good horse. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking him. I am going to side with Brave Man's Game. And do you know what's crazy is that this year, normally, I wouldn't give the likes of Paul Nicholls, Skeltons, I wouldn't really normally give them a chance of, winners at the festival. But there's been plenty of races I've gone through this year that I thought Paul Nicholls has decent horses and decent chances, probably because the lack of depth in a lot of the races. Now, I don't think there's much in behind these three in the market, and I just think Brave Man's Game is improving with every single start. He was a completely different horse to what he was when he was beaten by Soaring Glory at Chepstow. If you watch his run at Chepstow, he just didn't know what he was doing. He was chopping and changing his legs. He was fluffing hurdles, and then you go and watch him beat Runswick Bay at Exeter. He just looked a bit more fluent, and it was getting better. And then his last 2 runs at Newbury. This horse is so intelligent. He's so clever that when he comes to a bend, I watched him at Newbury. He's the first horse in the field to change his legs before that bend comes up, and he's gliding around it while the others are changing their legs as they're going around the bend. Same with hurdles. He can see a hurdle mile off and he can get onto his lead 4 and just take off and just keep that momentum going. I really like that about him. And I liked his finishing effort when he beat Stargate by 10 lengths. That makes him a 150 horse for me, that 10-length victory. And we've not seen what he's got off the bridle yet, which is scary because he's been so impressive. So there could be plenty more to come. I think he'll handle the course. I think he's an intelligent horse. I think he's improving with each start. And I think he's the best of the British, so I've got to give him a chance here. I do.
Yeah, I really like Brave Man's Game as well. And as you say about the switching lead thing, even from normal horses, the bigger they are, the longer it takes to, every race, as much as I'm sure Pauls do so much at home, it's not the same, is it? When they're really under pressure in a race, it's amazing to see them be smart and change leads and help themselves out. But yeah, I really like Brave Man's Game as well. Looking forward to seeing him. In the Ballymore, we've got the Brown Advisory next, and we've got Monkfish in here. Yay. Very short. I'm sure we'll have plenty of short certainties getting beat. I don't think he's one of them, though. I really love Monkfish. I just think he's a proper package. Another horse, a bit like we were just saying about Brave Man's Game. Really good, clever jumper, good turn of foot, stays well. Banker, everyone.
Banker.
Daryl. Yay.
Banker.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I love Monkfish. Is that the bet in the race, or is there something at a bigger price for each way?
No. I'm not worrying about the places. Just
Monkfish is the banker.
All on Monkfish. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's it.
Andrew?
There is. I mean, when we've talked about this race previously, Monkfish was sort of 2-1 before the DRF. You can make a good case then. You can make a good case now, but he's 6-4 on, and there is just a tiny doubt in his pedigree that 3 miles up the hill here might not be 100% ideal. At the prices, I've gone for the big breakaway and Next Destination. The Next Destination we talked about with the National Hunt Chase. I'm pretty sure he'll come here. He's a 9-year-old, but he's very lightly raced for his age. As Daryl said, he had a long period off the track. He's been impressive in winning his 2 starts since going over fences after that comeback hurdles run behind Roxana. And the big breakaway, I mean, again, you'd like to see some of the Colin Tizard horses run well on day 1. But he was a real eye-catcher last time out in the Quarto Star behind Chamblou when ridden patiently, not jumping particularly well. And I think a horse of his size coming back to Cheltenham is going to suit him. He's run so well here in the past. And at the time, the stable's horses were out of form. So, I would split stakes between the big breakaway and Next Destination, more on price grounds rather than not liking Monkfish as an animal. But, Monkfish has, won here at the Albert Bartlett last year. He's won by a neck and you were getting 5-1, 11-2 on the day. Now you're being asked to take 6-4 on. And, for me, he's a wonderful horse, but he's too short to warrant having a bet on. So look elsewhere. The big breakaway and Next Destination, the 2 to take him on with.
Yeah, I don't think Monkfish will get beat. I did write Big Breakaway, though, as an each-way horse. I think he's better than what we've seen. He's another horse who's green and made mistakes, so definitely agree with that. I'm sure both of you, or definitely Andrew at least, have found a thing of, I think, this century, 31 unbeaten horses have came into this, a lot of them very short prices, and only 2 have ever won. The Great Denman is one of them, Don Polly is the other, and Monkfish is going to be the next one.
The thing with Monkfish as well is last year in the Albert Bartlett, he was just a frame of a horse. Like you could see how much progression he physically had in him. I took a photo of him deliberately when he was walking around the parade ring at the last Cheltenham Festival, thinking I need to match this next year with another photo to see if he's filled that he's behind legs out in his frame. Yeah. And according to reports, he very much has so. So, he's improving all the time according to the Willie Mullins camp. So I do think Andy's correct, though. The 2 horses that you mentioned are probably the 2 that could follow him home. I do think if you want to each way place, but latest exhibition's not going here. So when he comes out, the market is just going to drop down. That's the way it's going to be. It's not. They're not being missed in the market, if you like. I don't think the Next Destination Big Breakaway. What for all they've got their chances.
Yeah. At least one of the 89 races we've all agreed on then, the Brown Advisory. Coral Cup coming up, that 2:30, and obviously this is another one absolutely wide open as regards the betting, so obviously lots of each way value to be found. Heaven only knows where, though. Daryl?
Kashari. Like this horse. Like this horse a lot. requested a price for this horse. They originally gave us 25 to 1 after his last run at Down Royal at the Dublin Racing Festival. It's clearly not the easiest to get right. He's had a long time off, but if you go back far enough, some of his form, even on debut when he beat a horse called Bello Conti, that horse was behind York Hill in the entry grade 1 and then 4th in the Ballymore that year. So he's got some really strong back form. In 2018 he was second to Invitation Only in a novice chase. He's a really nice horse. He's had the likes of Storyteller, Maldini in behind, that albeit over fences. But I just thought at the Dublin Racing Festival, he made a really bad mistake at the third and nearly came down. He was at the rear of the rest. It was at the rear of the field, and he just siphoned his way through really eye-catchingly. He wasn't given an overly hard time at all. It was all under hands and heels. He was a real eye-catcher. I think he's a really nice horse. I think the mark 146, the English handicappers only give him £2. So I think he has got a fairly big chance. His 2 mile 5 would be right up his street, I would have thought. There are a couple, obviously, at big prices in here that you can make cases for. There's one called Mill Green for Nicky Henderson. Just trying to find him now. Nicky Henderson. This horse, this was another eye catcher after the last Cheltenham Festival last year. Really caught the eye behind Indefatigable, staying on very, very strongly in the Martin Pipe. I don't know if this has been the plan or not, if they've had an issue, but he's had a chase start in February. He was behind in Rillo. If they switch back to hurdles here off the same mark of 140, he's got to be going close.
50s.
What price is he?
50s.
Is he really?
Mill Green, yeah.
50 to 1.
Yeah.
Just back that anyway, just because I've told you, rather than me having to make a case for it. He was sixth in that Martin Pipe behind it. In fact, he just caught the eye. He got no run on about 3 or 4 occasions. This could well have been the plan for him as well. So he's had the one spin of the bumper to jumper run at Kempton, and then he's had a novice chase. They switched back to hurdles here, and he's spot on for this. 50 to 1's far too big.
Okay. Main selection, Kashari though.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah, Mill Green's actually my pick in the race, believe it or not.
Get out of it.
Seriously, Henderson's won this 3 times in the last 7 years. We tend to look at the handicap hurdles as being an Irish benefit. They sometimes have been, but one thing to remember this year as well is that this race is worth 42 grand to the winner. It was 56,000 last year. Some of these horses were running for a lot more money in Ireland at the Dublin Racing Festival and the Leopardstown Christmas meeting. So, given the expense of coming over from Ireland, given the difficulty as well. Money. I mean, the drop in prize money, COVID, the travelling expenses, the forms to fill in post-Brexit. I'm not convinced that the Irish Handicap Challenge is going to be as strong this year, especially with the whole Gordon Elliott situation. And to say, there's 2 trainers who excel in this race, British trainers. Nicky Henderson, of course, 3 winners recently, including William Henry at 28 to 1 2 years ago. He also won it last year. And Paul Nicholls, he's only won it once, I think, from 20-odd runners, but a lot of his have made the frame as well. So don't ignore the British challenge here. But of all the Henderson runners, the one I liked was Mill Green, because of that 6th in the Martin Pipe last year. And when you go back and look at that race and you look at the other horses who've sort of finished around him, like, Happy Go Lucky, Ascari at 10. Umbrigado was down in, I think, 12th place in that race. So that, the winner, Indefatigable, hasn't done brilliantly this year. But she could bounce back because she often goes well at this time of year as well. So I think the Martin Pipe could be a key race when it comes to assessing form at this year's festival. And, Henderson's got multiple entries. I'm hoping Mill Green's going to be one of them. But also what we don't know yet is who's going to be declared in first-time headgear, who's had a wind operation since their last start, because we haven't seen the 5-day decks. And Henderson's 28 to 1 winner of this race had been a recipient of a first-time wind op when he just before winning this. So that's another angle to consider next week in this race. But yeah, Mill Green was my pick.
Yeah. That's the Coral Cup then. Kashari main selection for Daryl about 10s, and they both mentioned and both like Mill Green, and that's Andrew's main pick. That's 50 to 1 at the moment. So
he's going to be so gutted if Mill Green wins and he hasn't put him up.
I want you to show me your workings.
He wants to change it now. Yeah. Come on, let's see. Right, move on. We better go to the Queen Mother Champion Chases next. We got Put the Kettle on in here. Arkle winners have a good record in the race, and you'd think very much of interest based on stats anyway. But of course, Shiskhin was in here, Nuba Negra. Plenty of horses you could make cases for. Altior, of course, is in here as well. Daryl, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, terrible Arkle last year, though, for Put the Kettle on to win, though, wasn't it? Yeah. Even Fakir Dowders was running over the wrong trip that year. But look, I've backed a couple in here. I've backed a couple in here to try and take Shiskhin on. If Shiskhin Bourgeois does anything like he's been doing over in Ireland, I think it's going to be very tough to beat. But, you know, he's a very short price. You haven't got a lot in your favour in terms of the course, you know, the travelling over to England. You know, he's a fragile horse as it is. So there are doubts about him there. I thought Altior backing him each way, again, might be another heart of a head horse, but they're going to fit the blinkers on, or the cheek pieces on, rather. And that could just make a little bit of difference to his jumping and just to get him to spark up a little bit more. These horses, like we said before, they do come back time and time again at these festivals, and he's been there and done it. His form is very, very strong. You've seen the likes of Politolog win the Champion Chase last year, etc. Yeah. I can forgive that run at Kempton. He just didn't look himself. He was jumping out to the left. He's done that quite a few times. I don't think right-handed tracks are really his thing anyway, to be honest. I think he's just had the class to sort of get through. I think this could be the last hurrah for him. Look, he is an 11-year-old, but he's a young 11-year-old. So he's only had 25 races. Nube Negra is 4 years younger and has had 28 or 21 races. Politolog's had 28, you know. So he's not an old horse. So, I would be siding with Altior. The one I had a bit of a nibble at a massive price was So Royale. Put him up when we was doing a show with Andrew a couple of weeks ago. Just because if the ground comes up on the quicker side, which it has done over the years in this race, I'd be confident he could make the frame in here. He's only got 3 lengths to farm with Altior from the 2019 running of this race when it was run on soft ground. And the remarkable thing about these horses is his form figures on good to soft or better. They're 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 9, 6, 1, 1, 0, 1, 2. Throughout his whole career, it's quite remarkable how consistent he is once he gets a bit of a better ground.
Was that your phone number you just gave out there, Daryl?
You wish. Look, he's going to get a really strong pace in here, I think. He's going to be smuggled into the race. It could just pick up after the last and just run into a place, I think, at a big price. That run in the Game Spirit was excellent. I think he's only ran 2 higher top speed figures than he did in the Game Spirit. And they both came at Cheltenham on the old course. So you can expect a good run and even an improved run on that run at Newbury, I would suspect. So I just thought a big price. So Royale was worth a couple of quid each way, but Altior, sentimental value, hopefully can turn over the fav in the first time cheap pieces.
Okay, Altior it is. Andrew?
This race is ripe for an upset. Shiskhin Bourgeois has never travelled outside Ireland before. Whether he'll handle Cheltenham remains to be seen. He's a terrible price at odds on. You see him, you know, it's all very well sort of running around Leopardstown against 3 or 4 rivals and winning on the bridle, but this is a different test entirely. Altior will probably pull up and be retired. He is an 11-year-old. I mean, I'm a young 50-year-old, but
get out of it
because I've only done a dozen park runs. It doesn't work, you know. He's not going to win this, for goodness sake. Nube Negra, probably better on flat tracks, progressive and interesting, but at a single figure price. I mean, I know he's been here. He's placed in a Fred Winter. I think he was favourite for that a few years ago. But I'd worry about him getting up the hill. Politolog was flattered by being given a soft time of things in front last year. First Flow may be best right-handed. He's very rarely raced left-handed, and when he has, although he's been winning, it's tended to be Mickey Mouse races, and he has shown a bit of a tendency to go out to his right. So that would be a concern. I like Daryl's angle with So Royal. Certainly wouldn't put you off that one if you got his ground. But I keep coming back to the Arkle form, and you can crab the Arkle, but put the Kettle on. She doesn't have to lead. I know she made all pretty much last year, but I like that Arkle form. I like put the Kettle on. I like Fakir Duderi for this. Fakir Duderi's 12 runs for Joseph O'Brien below 3 miles, 4 wins, 7 seconds, and a 4th in the Supreme. He's got an option in the Ryanair chase. The betting suggests he's probably more likely to go for that. But I think put the Kettle on. 3rd to Shiskhin Bourgeois last time on a track that wouldn't have been ideal. coming back to Cheltenham is a huge thing for her. She's not a sort of midwinter ground horse. She comes to hand in the spring. I think double figure prices about Put the Kettle On are huge. So she's a confident pick for me in a race that will see an upset.
Altior beat that with 3 legs.
Okay, well, we know that we all think Shishkin is going to get beat then. Altior for Daryl and Put the Kettle On the mare for Andrew. We've then got the exciting cross-country chase. Next, obviously, Tiger Roll been the kind of main story in this year, in this race for the last few years. But David Cotton's Easy's Land is the favourite in here. Do we think that it's going to be that easy? Andrew, do you want to start so you can't copy Daryl?
Yeah, very possibly with Easy's Land. But I mean, he went into this race last year with a lot more runs under his belt during the current season. Obviously, we've not seen him since finishing 4th here over course and distance, albeit in a handicap when giving chunks of weight away. So that would worry me slightly. The one I'm going to put up is Breuil for Ben Pauling. This is a horse I think is much better in the spring. Now, he's had 8 runs in March, April or May. He's won 4 times. He's been to the festival before, won the National Hunt Challenge Cup a few years ago, a race Tiger Roll won, of course, before winning this race twice. So with a bit of sun on his back, hopefully on better ground, Breuil has got multiple entries, but I think if he runs here, I'd chance him to take to these fences. And, he was beaten favourite at Musselburgh last time, but again, that was in the mud. That was outside of the spring period. And I think it could go well here at a price.
Okay, Daryl?
Be shocked if Easy Land's beat. Be shocked. I just think he's far superior to anything else in the race. Tiger Rolls over the hill now for me. He was an excellent 4th in a prep run for this in that handicap. He tried to give £22 to everything in the field. He wasn't given a hard time. He wasn't beaten 5. He's beaten 9 lengths. Back off levels. I think he's a certainty. 2 to 1's. What have you got? 2 to 1 there?
Yeah.
I think that's crazy. I think he should be a bloody even money shot.
We'll take 2 to 1 then. Easy Land for Daryl and Breuil for Andrew then. If it's anywhere near that straightforward, I'll be shocked. It's just that kind of race, isn't it? Absolute. Anyway, Grand Annual next, at 4:15, I think. What we're going to side within this? Andrew, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure thing. A very interesting horse here for Dan Skelton called Marracudja, who ran in the race last year. Now, he ruined his handicap mark last season by finishing 3rd to Defi de Soy and Under So in that Clarence House chase at Ascot, after which they shoved him up £11 for a sort of never near a 3rd. And I did a panel with Tom Messenger, one of Dan Skelton's assistants, and talked about this race, said, will he still run? Yeah, we'll probably run, but he can't win under that weight. Next year will be a different story, however. So that was very interesting. Now this year, the problem is he's gone too far down the handicap. So he really needed to win last time out at Wetherby, but he's bumped into Umbrigado. He's finished a close-up 3rd. It was his first run after a wind-up, best run for a while. But I noticed they've got him entered twice on Friday of this week. So it looks like they're trying to get a penalty for this race. Now, looking at his current handicap mark of 134, you got into the race last year with 140. If he picks up that £5 penalty for a win at either Leicester or Hereford, then he could sneak into the race at the bottom of the weights. And he's a horse who basically doesn't do anything when he's held up in his races. When he races prominently, he runs well. So let's hope he bounces back a few days before Cheltenham and then turns up here. The other one is On the Slopes for Chris Gordon. Now, he was well touted for this race last year. He'd finished 3rd in the Timeform Novices Handicap on Trials Day behind Simply the Bets and Imperial Aura. Simply the Bets and Imperial Aura both went on to win at the festival. Now, I did a multiple bet, that pair, and On the Slopes for the Grand Annual. He didn't get in, but then he did pop up at Kempton, I think, on the Saturday after Cheltenham and won there. Now, looking at his handicap mark this time, I think he's just going to scrape in. I think he's on a mark of 140. That would have got him into the race last year. His 2nd run after a wind operation. He looks to have been campaigned with this in mind. He had a spin round and a jumper's bumper last time out. So, yeah, Marracudja, and the hope that he wins on Friday and gets in, and On the Slopes, the 2 for me.
Okay, Daryl?
Yeah, I like Embittered at the top of the market. I thought he ran a blinder in County Hurdle last year. Did his fractions after the festival when we were reviewing the races. He was on the sharp end of that County Hurdle throughout. It was a blinding run. The only two horses to catch him were Aramon and Sam Ra. He was giving Sam Ra £9. It's now rated 155. He was in receipt of £3 from Aramon. It's now rated 163. He's off the same mark here as well. He's made a bright start. It's behind the ill-fated Easy Work at the beginning of the season, beating just 2.25 lengths. He's rated 153, beating 3 lengths by Andy Dufresne. I think the better ground will help. I don't think he's been given the best of rides the last twice at Leopardstown. I think they've kept an eye on his handicap mark. Comes here off the same mark. I think he's got an absolutely excellent chance. But there are others you can make cases for in here. Obviously, the shunter is entered all over the place. So it's worth keeping an eye on where he goes, because I think off a mark of 140, his chase mark is he's still well handicapped. So he's interesting. Tamarok de Matan, you can see what I was saying earlier, that I keep giving Paul Nicholls horses chances, because if Tamarok de Matan comes in here off a mark of 150, he'd have to be taken very seriously after what he's just done. What he's just done the last twice. He really just glides across the ground. He'll probably want better ground. But whether he turns up or not is a different matter. And the Moolah Gold was the one for Dan Skelton that I quite liked, actually. His form is rock solid at the moment. He was beat by a Bello by a short head. The Bello's now rated £24 higher, 154. A neck defeat to First Flow, who's rated £18 high, he's now 166. Beaten 2 lengths by Sky Pirate, who's at the top of the market here. Sky Pirate is now rated £6 higher. And Moolah Gold is an improving horse, proven 8-year-old who stays really, really well. Meets your Bello in this race on £8 better terms and Sky Pirate on £3 better terms. He could just have a little bit more to come. But yeah, this is a really, really good race. I can't wait for it to cut down so we can actually go in again. But at the moment, it'd be Embittered for me. I know he's at the top of the market, but I just thought on the basis of that County Hurdle run last year, he went down for me as one to keep an eye on, because I thought he could be a graded class. So Embittered.
Okay. I like Chosen Mate in this last year's winner. It's a bit probably boring, but I think each way value, he's off an £8 higher mark and sadly doesn't have Davy Russell, so a few negatives, but just didn't think that this horse, with conditions to suit and the way he went about it last year, shouldn't be 16. So Chosen Mate for me. So a fair bit of value in that Grand Annual. And then the last on our second day is, of course, the Champion Bumper. And do you want to start us off with this, Andrew? Obviously, we got Kilcrewy, I think, is the favourite at the moment.
Yeah, Kilcrewy was very impressive at Leopardstown at the DRF. There was a real whoosh factor there. A lot of impressive performances, visually impressive performances at that meeting, but he was the one that really took the eye. But again, we've seen Anticipated beaten in these colours at a short price last year, and we've seen a lot of shocks in this race over the years, so I couldn't really recommend backing him at the current price. I hope he wins by 20 lengths and turns out to be the next Arkle, but we'll see. There is a very interesting one at a bigger price called Eric Bloodaxe for Joseph O'Brien. Now, because first time out, Eric Bloodaxe beat Fernie Hollow in a bumper in the winter of 2019, followed that up with a win from Wide Receiver, and then was headed near the head of the anti-post betting for this race last year, but went to the DRF, took on Appreciate It, and finished lame, trailed home in 7th place. So obviously a physical problem, not been seen for 410 days, but has been nibbled at in recent days. So maybe Eric Bloodaxe, coming back from a break, can go well here for Joseph O'Brien.
Yeah, a long break as well. I really like that you say Anticipate It when it's Appreciate It, because they're two completely different words, aren't they? But it's Appreciate It anyway, but it makes me laugh.
I appreciate you not pointing that out.
Daryl.
I was gonna pick him up.
I didn't want anyone to think that I'm like making a point of saying it, but because you said it twice now, I thought I better just say.
And then the third time he said it properly.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, obviously wide open race. It's going to be a good race. The one I'm going to throw one at you at a big price for Willie Mullins, called Jet. He's had 2 runs, beaten at Leopardstown at Christmas, where he just shaped in desperate need of the run, like many of Willie's did at that time. He came there with came turning around the home bend, went to make his challenge, and then just emptied out. The year before in that race on Boxing Day, Willie Mullins entered Ramillies, who's in here as well.
Yeah.
And he expressed earlier in the season that he thought Ramillies was his best bumper horse this year. So that just tweaked my mind that Cool Jet actually ran in the same race as Ramillies did the year before, because Ramillies obviously is a second season bumper. But then I went back through that race that he ran in. It was Willie Mullins' only entry. And the year before, in 2018, he had ran Allaho in it, and he had ran Black Bow in it in 2016. And Bacardi's in it the year before that, 2015. So I just thought there were some decent horses that he had entered into that race. Willie Mullins is very much a creature of habit, so he's quite easy to read. He doesn't, he's not a complicated guy. And then Cool Jet went out next time at Thurles, and he bolted up by 5 lengths. Now, he didn't really beat much, but the manner in which he did it in that heavy ground, he looked like he didn't really enjoy the heavy ground. He was just getting through it. But he went away with quite some conviction, and I just thought he looks a nice type of horse. He looks like he's going to improve every single run. So I just thought, as a bit of a stab in the dark, I think he's a 33 to 1 shot. I think Cool Jet just might be a bit more highly regarded in the Mullins yard than the price suggests in this race.
Okay. Both big prices then in that last on the second day. Eric Bloodaxe for Andrew back from a lengthy break, about 25s, I think. And Cool Jet at 33.
I love the fact that Daryl thinks Willie Mullins is easy to read. One of who's
in terms of
good at disguising a handicap plot, and I'll be fascinated to see his reaction to that.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of the races,
you're right after Cheltenham.
In terms of the race he runs his horses in, you can be pretty sure that he runs a similar type of horse in a lot of races throughout the calendar year in Ireland. You could go back and you can find that you can work backwards from these horses and just see where he's being entered. I just think he's a creature of habit. It was the same thing the other week when he ran Acapella Bourgeois and the Bobby Joe. He had run him previously in the same handicap as the year before. It's the same with Album Photo. He runs it the same race at Tremor. Yeah. There's a lot of that repetitiveness with Willie Mullins, I find. So get out of here, Andy.
if you know it works, stick with it.
I think this is going to be one of the more straightforward races of the day. I think this is one that lacks a bit of depth. I've tried to get Envoy Allen beat multiple times. Without success, so I'm not going to try again this year. I think he's the one to be on. He's going to be very popular in the market, of course. He's going to probably be no price, but I think he's the more likely winner. So Envoy Allen will win this. In terms of the without markets, I thought Chamblou may be worth a play in the without market, around 3 to 1. I don't think Chantry House's jumping is going to be good enough, and Chamblou, you don't really have that sort of that worry. I think he's just going to pop out and probably get caught by Envoy Allen coming up the home straight. But I thought Chamblou would last out to the finish line and probably hit the frame. So whether anything can come from behind Chamblou and pick him up as well is another question. But I thought 3 to 1 Chamblou without the favourite would be the way to go. But Envoy Allen for win purposes.
Okay, Andrew.
I wasn't usually taken by Envoy Allen's last performance, but it's obviously going to be hard to beat, as the betting would suggest. And this has been a good race for last time out winners over the years. If you just bet all the last time out winners, you'd have made a profit. You put them all in the place pot, you'd have got through to the last leg every time, the next leg of the place pot every time, and you'd have also had a few tricasts and forecasts along the way. So if you are looking for one at a bigger price, an each way alternative, maybe Chantry House for Nicky Henderson. He completely bombed out here in very deep ground at the December meeting, but bounced back to win at Wetherby last time out. He's been to the festival before and run well, finishing third to Shishkin in the Supreme last year. So, I'll go each way Chantry House against the Irish Good Thing.
Okay. Interesting race that then. So neither of us overly going to bet out Envoy Allen because it's obviously so very short. That's the first race on our third day. We then got the Potence Network final, haven't we? I actually really like the favourite in this race. I thought Imperial Alcazar still lightly raced, another horse who's still learning to settle. We talked on this as well about horses using themselves properly. I think that Imperial Alcazar is still learning to do that, and I thought he won really well at Warwick. I have to say as well, Fergal O'Brien, really good for Twitter, isn't he? They've got a really good, funny Twitter account and post a lot of things about bacon and about cakes. So fingers crossed, Imperial Alcazar can run well for them. What do you like in this, Daryl?
Imperial Alcazar. I've been on for a little while now. Hopefully, Andy tries to take this one on for forfeit purposes as well later on in the day. But
I'm not
yeah, I
happy,
think
but it's my pick.
yeah, I think he's a really, really nice horse. He's up £8 for that win at Warwick. He had plenty in hand at the finish. The mark of 147 does worry me slightly, I must admit, because he does now need to improve to win this race. But he's entitled to. His novice form from last year over shorter is very good. And he was just screaming, another one screaming out to go up in trip to 3 miles. So he's only had the 2 starts over the trip, beaten by Main Fact at Haydock on very deep ground when he was desperately in need of the run. He just dropped out very tamely. Yeah. And then at Warwick, he duly obliged. I think better ground will be fine for him. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think Fergal O'Brien deserves a Cheltenham Festival winner. I don't think it's long overdue. And yeah, I think he's a really, really nice horse. I don't think this race is as deep as it initially looks. I think I don't think there's much in here at all, really. There's a couple you could make cases for. Like, I like Come On Teddy. I've mentioned this horse a couple of times before. He wasn't given the best ride. Or he didn't get granted the best of luck behind Imperial Alcazar at Warwick. He was just caught around the bend for shorter room. He dropped back off hills, had to come wide, and then stayed on strongly. He did a really good time when beaten on the blind side at Cheltenham the time before that. He's going to be held up, so a strong pace will definitely suit him. So I couldn't put anybody off Come On Teddy, who's off the same mark as his Warwick run here, while Imperial Alcazar is £8 higher, so he's £8 better off with that one. The Boss's Oscar is very interesting. He's been given a mark of 151. Now, that's pretty high, but I've been hearing rumours about this Jordan Gainford, this young jockey over in Ireland who apparently is the next big thing, and he's a £7 claimer. So if they decide to put him on, take £7 off the Boss's Oscars back, that's going to be very, very interesting, because the way this horse finished out his race last year at the Cheltenham Festival, when he ran in the behind Indefatigable in the was it the Martin Pipe? The Martin Pipe, yeah, just screamed like he wanted to go up in trip. Now, he's not been at his best the last twice, but he's been lumping big weights around. If they take £7 off him here, he's going to have a big chance. But Imperial Alcazar, for me, could well be the graded horse in this race. And that's what I think you're going to need to be winning this. Like I say, there's lots of others you can make small cases for, but Imperial Alcazar is the one that I'm going to be lumping on the day.
Yeah, I think so. For win purposes, Andrew?
Yeah, very tricky. I previewed this for the website and put up the Boss's Oscar. This is before the whole Gordon Elliott thing exploded. He's bidding for his 4th straight win in the race. And of course, you know, if you back a British horse in this race, you're always in danger of bumping into a very well handicapped Irish one. The slight worry with Imperial Alcazar is that he has been campaigned honestly, it would seem, and winning his qualifier rather than finishing 4th, 5th, or 6th in it, which seems to be the route to success in this race. But I say it's not worth as much this year, this contest, and maybe the Irish perhaps won't have as much up their sleeve as they normally do. So, at the price now, I can quite happily leave him alone. The Boss's Oscar, whoever he turns up for in terms of trainer. Southfield Harvest is interesting for Nichols. He ran an absolutely astonishing race in the qualifier at Wincanton on Boxing Day. Big track bias that day. You had to be wide. He's managed to go down by a short head despite racing in the swamp throughout on the inner. Ran a respectable race at Newbury next time, finishing 3rd. So he's around about 14-1. And Honest Vic is one that Daryl and I have talked about when we previewed this in one of our Monday slots before. Goes well fresh, been off the track for just over 5 weeks and likes the track. So, numerous options. I'll put up Southfield Harvest as the one, but it needs a bit more work for me, this race. Third Wind is also worth a mention if he runs under top weight. Top weights have done really well in this race, particularly last time out winners. Those in the top 2 in the race, something like 5 from 11 over the years. So don't be surprised to see Third Wind and run well despite a welter burden.
Okay, so perhaps one to have another look at further down the line. So do make sure you check back with us. But at the moment, Imperial Alcazar for me and Daryl, and the Boss's Oscar for Andrew. That's that attempts final. We've got the Ryanair next, haven't we? And 10 of the last 13 winners from this have come from the first 2 in the betting. A lot of horses in this make all or are ridden quite prominently. So my nap in here, Malin, is going to use his forcing tactic and his jumping skills, and he's going to win. isn't he, Daryl?
Absolutely agree.
Do you?
Yeah, I
Oh,
do. I love Melon for this. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Have you been paid by the bosses to keep me happy and agree?
No. Honestly, I think 4 times runner-up at the Cheltenham Festival. I think this is his year. I thought the same last year with Min. Everything went his way. I like the angle of the Marsh from last year into this race. I think Melon's comes in here with the strongest line of form from that Savills chase. Behind a Plutard, who I think has got a good chance in the Gold Cup. Ran respectably again at Leopardstown next time behind Kenboy. Just doesn't really see out the trip of 3 miles, I don't think. And I think dropping back to this distance, a good ride on the front end, I think he's got a fantastic chance. The Marsh last year was actually ran faster, did a fastest circuit time than the Ryanair itself. So I couldn't have the likes of Min from that race, and I thought Min was lucky, really. I tipped Min last year and I backed Min, but I thought he was lucky to hold on from St Calvados, who was coming late, got denied a clear run up the rail and inside the home straight. There's a couple of dangers in here that I would be worried about. One of them is Sampcro from that Marsh race last year, who beat us with Melon. This horse shouldn't be written off. He comes alive in the spring. He's a winner at 2 Cheltenham Festivals now, so he's definitely a useful horse, that's for sure. And the other would be Fakir Dowdry's. Hasn't run over his right trip all season long, and he did demolish Ronald Pump and Sampcro the last time he ran over this sort of trip. So that would be a form line into last year's Marsh with Melon. You know, you can link that together. So he's going to have a good chance. I'd have it between the 3, Melon, Fakir and Sampcro. I wouldn't be looking anywhere else, not even at Mr. Fisher, who was behind them last year. And I would side with Melon because of his prominent tactics. I think he's just going to jump. And I think this is his year to get his head down at the right spot. So totally agree with you, Melon.
Perfect. Me too. I think Joseph O'Brien has said, hasn't he, that at this stage he probably will Fakir Duderi go for the Ryanair, but he's going to decide a lot closer to the time. So we'll have to wait and see for that, but should be going here at the moment, I think. Andrew?
Yeah, Imperial Aura for me. Big fan of this horse. Bet him at the festival last year when he was impressive, and nominated him for this race shortly afterwards when I did a very early podcast previewing the 2021 festival during lockdown 1. Half tongue in cheek at the time, but he's done nothing since to put me off that. And I know he unseated last time out, but it was very early. It was fairly soft, and you'd have liked to have seen him, carry on and win that race and come here 3 from 3 this season. But he loves stiff tracks, and I thought he had an excellent chance. I'd make him favourite for the race, really, certainly ahead of Allaho. I know Daryl's not a big fan of that one either, and Min is, I thought, a little bit old now at the age of 10 to be winning this, but maybe last year's winner could go well again. Completely agree with the pair of you with Melon. If you want to put that one in your place pot, you'd probably be disappointed if he's out the 3. Mr. Fisher is the size of the field with him. He was a bet in my column for the rearranged Peterborough chase. When he's had a field of 11 or fewer runners, he's 6 wins and a second from 7 starts. When he's had 12 or more runners, he's lost all 6. So this might not cut up to a sufficiently small field for Mr. Fisher. If it does, I'd give him a chance. If it doesn't, I'd quite happily leave him alone. So, Imperial Aura for me.
Okay. Yeah, when he unseated, I think they said, didn't they? It was obviously he didn't fall, so he wouldn't have taken any harm, the horse. And I think they thought he just wasn't perhaps concentrating with it being early on. So that wouldn't bother you, would it?
No, definitely not.
Yeah, and wouldn't have affected the horse. So Imperial Aura for Andrew and Malin strongly for me and Daryl in the Ryanair. Stayers Hurdle next. And again, this is another one I found a few facts for. Age 9 or younger, last 10 out of 10 winners. The last 8 out of 10 have finished 1st, 2nd or 3rd last time out. And 7 out of the 10 have won or placed at Cheltenham. So on all those, Time Hill should win. Shouldn't he, Andrew?
Simple. Yeah, we don't need to do anything else now. Just move on. Yeah. But let's have a look at last year's race when the first 3 were 50 to 1, 20 to 1 and 33 to 1, and all had been a lot bigger early doors. But a fascinating rematch here between Time Hill and Paisley Park, because Time Hill had the verdict at Newbury in the long distance hurdle, and then Paisley Park reversed the form in the long walk. Now, the long walk came just over 3 weeks after that Newbury run, and Time Hill's connections have always said is a horse you can't go to the well with too often. It goes extremely well when fresh. He did best of the British when fourth to Monkfish in last season's Albert Bartlett, and I thought he'd reverse the form with Paisley Park. Whether that's enough to win the race, they might finish second and third or third and fourth, but I thought of the British runners, Time Hill was the best, and I'm hoping he can give Philip Hobbs another Cheltenham Festival winner. Side de Burley's been to the festival 3 times, finishing fourth, first and first. He's never been beaten by a British trained runner at the festival. When he was fourth in the Martin Pipe a few years ago, the 3 who beat him were all Irish trained. He was a bit disappointing at Leopardstown last time, but that was a small field, steadily run affair. Flooring Porter was allowed to dictate. Looking at the previous profiles of winners, generally they come from off the pace, and it's very hard to make all in this race. That would suggest to me that Side de Burley is going to reverse the form with Flooring Porter here. I'm going to go for Time Hill, but Side de Burley a close second.
Okay. Daryl?
Triple penalty for Time Hill, because I fancy Time Hill as well quite strongly for this. I thought it was one of the best bets of the day at the prices. The form of the Albert Bartlett last year, and I thought, I tipped and backed Monkfish last year in that Albert Bartlett, not to blow my own trumpet, but I genuinely thought afterwards that Time Hill was the unlucky horse in the race. He clocked the fastest fractions from 3 out to the last, and between 2 out and the finish as well. He got denied a clear run, had to switch wide. The others had the help of the rail up, after the back of the last. I thought he was very unlucky. It feels like he's got unfinished business at Cheltenham. I think he's a really, really talented horse. I maintain that Richard Johnson probably should have gone a little bit earlier on him at Ascot. Thought Paisley Park had built up a head of steam in behind, while Richard Johnson was sort of holding on and wanted to go after the last, whereas Paisley Park was sort of in full flight when he tried to then pick up. And I thought he couldn't just quite bridge that gap because Paisley Park was already running at full speed. So I think he's going to ride a little bit differently. I think he's going to be held on to. I think he's definitely got a fantastic chance at the prices. And I think he comes in here with the strongest piece of form, which is the Albert Bartlett from last year. And the 2 runs this term, you can't say he's gone backwards. He's only improved. There's plenty to like about him for sure. And they're 10-3 joint the pair, and simply on the basis of that Ascot run, I think Richard Johnson will ride a little bit differently, and I think he can reverse form on Paisley Park. Okay.
Straightforward then for the Stairs Hurdle. We all like Time Hill. May not be quite as easy in that next. This plate, the 3:40, if that's the time it goes at the moment. We've got Completed and Far Class at the top here. I've got their 8-1 joints at the moment. Do you want to start us, Daryl?
Yeah, Conflated for me. He trounced the big Getaway, who's rated 150 by 10 lengths last time. In fourth, that wasn't last time, it was the time before. Mr. Hendricks was in fourth that time, now rated 146. Dinny Lacey in sixth, next time out by 8 lengths. Exit Pole won next time out. He jumped left at Punchestown on the right-handed track, went behind the steering for Lon, so sort of can forgive that. He didn't run too badly behind Monkfish, went over 3 miles on his last start behind Monkfish in the latest exhibition, just didn't really see out the trip, made a couple of errors. And it's interesting, they threw him up to 3 miles for his final start before coming here. I think he's very well handicapped off a mark of 159. There's plenty more to come. I don't see anything else in this race that's better handicapped than he is. That's for sure. So yeah, Conflated for me. The last 5 winners of this race have all been novices as well. So he is a novice that ticks that box. And Jigginstown have got a good record in it. They've won it with Road to Respect and someone else skips my mind. Emperor of Dirt. So yeah, good record. I think he ticks a lot of boxes. I really do. I think he's well handicapped. 149. I think this could be a graded horse in the handicap. So Conflated.
Very good. Yeah, only one recent run, as you say, over this trip, and it was a very easy win. Andrew?
Yeah, Conflated was, I think, one I napped for the Dublin Racing Festival when he was due to make his handicap chase debut in that 2 mile 5 contest, but was a non-runner. Basically said this horse who needs a big field and a strong pace, and he just hasn't been getting it. running around the back in these small field conditions contests behind the likes of Monkfish. He needs them to go like the clappers. The slight downside with this race is that over the years it's favoured those who race prominently. Cyrodilac made all 2 years ago. Last year, Simply the Bets was always up there. So I do slightly worry about his running style, but he's a horse I've just been willing to run in a big field over fences, and now we finally get the chance to see what he's capable of. The other one interesting was Umbrigado, who won the Greatwood Gold Cup Handicap Chase at Newbury last week. He impressed me there because he came from off the pace on a track that's massively favouring front runners of late, Newbury's Chase Course. But again, he hasn't perhaps got the perfect running style for this race, although he is in the same colours as Cyrodilac, who won it 2 years ago for a different yard. So I'll go Conflated, but yeah, I'd be more confident if he looked like he was going to line up just in behind the leaders or in the sort of first 5 or 6 rather than right out the back of the telly.
Yeah. Okay. Both on Conflated then. The next up on today's is the 4:15. Got that Mares Novices Hurdle. It's registered as the Dawn Run now, isn't it? Hook Up and Royal Kahala on my screen are the joint favourites at the moment. Again, with a lot of these races, we don't know what's going where, so obviously not making it the easiest always to get exact selections. But anything that either of you could pick out of this that you liked?
Yeah, two. Oh, go on, mate. Go on.
You go first.
Well, so you can copy again. Don't think so. Go on.
Well, the first thing to say, because we've had 5 runnings of this race, everyone's been won by Willie Mullins, but he has won it with the 50 to 1 shots. And when there was a colossal place pot that day, the first 3 were 50 to 1, 66 and 40s. My place pot went down with Indefatigable in 5th, who was best of the British trained runners that year. So, again, you're immediately drawn to what Mullins has got.
Yep.
Hook Up on her DRF form. I mean, Royal Kahala and Rosie's Hollow met in the Solarina last time, and I was quite impressed by Royal Kahala second place that day because she raced in the swamp on the inside, so she might be able to reverse the form this time. But I was struggling to get away from the head of the market. Now, the interesting one for me is Alan King's The Glancing Queen. I say he's not had a hurdle winner at the festival since 2013 in the Coral Cup. A lot beaten in that time, but he does very well with his mares. And of course, the Glancing Queen has run well at the festival before when I think she was 5th in the Champion Bumper a couple of years ago, doing second best of the British trained runners. Last season, she made her seasonal debut in the Champion Bumper and wasn't disgraced. Reportedly needed the run. And then, of course, she won at Aintree next time in graded company. Now, last time out, she was beaten at short odds at Exeter, but she raced in the swamp on the inside rail when you want it to be wide. That was in the race won by Wild About Oscar. So taking on her own sex again. So the Glancing Queen, I've long been a fan of her, and I think she'll be worth backing each way. If you can get 4 places, she'll probably do best of the British. I think some bookmakers are missing a trick by not offering that sort of market on races like the Champion Bumper and the Mares races in which the Irish traditionally dominate. So, it's a tough one. I'll go the Glancing Queen each way, but maybe Hook Up of the Irish contingent.
Yeah, the Glancing Queen about 10s, I think, at the moment, isn't she? So, Glancing Queen for Andrew. Daryl, you got 2?
Yeah, I've got 2 in this. I like this race. It's quite a good race. Just looking at the top of the market, first off, £9 better off is Royal Kahala with Rosie Hallow, and £6 better off with Galois, £2 better off with Hook Up. Obviously, they met last time. Rosie Hallow saddles a penalty for this, so may not have been intentional to win that race. Glens of Antrim is one of the horses I like in this. I think this horse could have a very, very smart turn of foot and be seen to better effect on better ground. It's got some really nice form behind Blue Lord, Statler, and the run behind Mr. Incredible at Nace last time was really, really good, over 2.5. I think the drop back and trip's definitely going to suit. I think that could be a smart horse in the making. The other one is Santa Rosa. Now, she only ran 12 days ago. I'm not sure if this is going to come too soon or if this is the plan or what, but she had been off for quite a while. If you go back through some of her form, especially her bumper form, a couple of years ago, at Aintree, she was only beaten 3 lengths by McFabulous. At Punchestown, she was beaten 5 lengths by Cool Reevy, but in second that day was Abacadabras, Beacon's Edge, Embittered, December 2nd, back in 6th. He was a really good horse, unfortunately passed away. Man, let's start. Look, there's some really strong form from the bumper runs with the boys. She came out, went seen her for a while. She came out at Navan. She bolted up by 10 lengths, but she didn't really beat anything, but she was keen as mustard for the whole race. Robbie Powell was just trying to hold on to her for the whole race. She just absolutely tanked around and just cleared away so easily. It was really, really impressive. I really liked that run. I was quite taken by it. So I thought she would have a good chance. She's got a run at Fairy House under her belt when she was seen before that in January. She finished behind Exit Pole and John Snow, ahead of this Linwood Gold. A lot of people like this Linwood Gold for a race at the festival as well. She's only beaten 3 lengths by Exit Pole. That's running into the mark of the 140s for me, and I think that'll be good enough to win this race. Obviously, a lot of these can improve and take a step forward, but I thought Santa Rosa, I know it's only 12 days later, but oh God, I was so taken with that run. I thought she was definitely worth a poke at double figure odds. I mean, Glenn's Antrim and Santa Rosa are both double figure prices, so you can back the pair of them if you like.
Yeah, Santa Rosa was like well over a year off as well, wasn't it? So it was probably an extra bit of good performance. I think Santa Rosa about 20s, the Glancing Queen for Andrew. Last race on day 3 is that Football and Kimure Challenge Cup, and again it's kind of 6-1, 2 at the top, and for me on here at the minute 14-1 bar the rest of them. So again, plenty of each way opportunities as there is, I think, in every single race. But who is it, Andrew?
Yeah, tricky one this, because it's not an amateur race this year. We've got professional jockeys. So what we normally see is the amateur riders tend to go too quick. And even though the new course tends to favour prominent racers, in this race, generally speaking, the winner will come from the back. And it was a case of surviving. So you'd need a good amateur pilot. And you'd also need, exactly. And you'd need a horse who had a lot of sort of placed efforts in its form, very few non-completions. You were looking for a horse who generally sort of plodded on to sort of 2nd, 3rd or 4th, maybe getting outpaced. But then the conditions of this race and the speed it was run at, they'd still be there at the business end and come through and win it. I mean, Run Wild Fred, the current favourite, very much fits that bill in the sort of the old school of Kim Muir winners. I mean, Disho Abba was quite interesting, having bounced back to form in the headgear at Sandown last time, and he was 5th in the race last year. So the previous year's renewal has sometimes been a good guide. And you've got Kilfillam Cross, who's, I think, finished 2nd in the last 2 years, is running again, but isn't been in anything like the same sort of form. So there's also 2 in here I've mentioned for other races earlier in our preview, Breuil on the spring horse, and Sizing at Midnight as well for Colin Tizard. So if either of that pair ran here, I'd have a small bet. But at the moment I'm struggling. I'll say Breuil over Sizing at Midnight, but both have got other options this week.
Yeah, it's. What about you, Daryl?
Yeah, I've got one at a really big price. I'd be willing to take a chance on it. Basically fits everything that Andy's just said as well about being outpaced over 2.5 miles and staying on and plodding on, but not winning and keeping warm company. It's a horse called Brayside at around 40-1, I think. This horse ran a really, really nice race at Galway over 2.6 behind Pencil, Full of Lead and Cocoa Beach, finished 3rd, beaten 5 lengths. The form of that has worked out really, really well. But even over 2.6, he just got slightly outpaced before he stayed on towards the finish. Yeah. Then he went and ran at Navan 2 starts ago behind Phyllis Dalderis, who's rated around 146 and has been quietly fancy for one of the handicaps at Cheltenham. That horse went out next time and got within 4 lengths of Envoy Allen. Brayside was 2nd. Yukon Lil, who's a high-class horse for Willie Mullins, was in 3rd. And he's not been overly harshly treated by the handicapper. Now, the one thing that put me onto this was at Fairy House. He ran at Kilbeg and Galway and then Punchestown behind Astir and Phalange, and then went to Fairy House for his handicap debut. And Gordon put Lisa O'Neill on. So Lisa O'Neill was an amateur jockey. And he finished 2nd, and he was off the mark 129. And I think he needed to get his mark up high enough to be able to get into this race. And the fact that Lisa O'Neill rode said to me, okay, it's an amateur race. Let's, get the amateur jockey on now, have a good ride on Brayside, and then come the festival. That's where who Lisa O'Neill would have been riding. So that was my angle there, because that was in November, and we was not under the impression that amateurs weren't riding then. Then ran in that nice race at Navan over 2-4, over a trip too short, and then came out of Ferry House last time. You've got to forgive a bit of a poor run, but it was just outpaced and stayed on again in cheek pieces. So I just think that this horse has got a fantastic chance. Brayside at a big price, but you really are just sort of taking a stab in the dark at this sort of stage. I do know Morning Vicar's going to run in here. I do like that horse. Felt he had more to come, but Brayside at a big price would be the one I'd be starting with at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's 33s. I found Brayside, so 33s for Brayside. That's it for the Thursday. We move on to Friday, back onto the new course, Gold Cup Day as well. You're still with us. We're getting there. And last year and you're still awake, saw Alboon Photo obviously claim back-to-back wins, and that had not been done for a very long time. But we will get to that. We first start with the JCB Triumph Hurdle. Looking forward to this. Obviously, how good was Tritonic in the Adonis? He's a super little flat horse. Jumping looked spot on at Kempton. And he seemed to make real light work of those. So we'll start with you, Andrew, for this.
Yeah, I was quite taken with Tritonic. I thought he might get beaten that day because he tends to come from off the pace, and Kempton's a track that front runners are strongly favoured over hurdles. He raced a little closer to the pace than he had done when winning previously, but still a little bit further back than is typically ideal for Kempton. So I'd upgrade that performance. And I mean, I'm just looking at Alan King's record with his hurdlers at the Cheltenham Festival, 1 from 126 since 2009. So that was a 33-1 Coral Cup winner when the expected winners was over 6. I mean, that's obviously a concern. You know, he has been struggling in recent years to make an impact at the big meetings, but Tritonic looks a proper tool since he's been switched to hurdles, and I'm hoping he can, do another catch it and give the trainer a winner in this race.
Yeah, me too. I really like Tritonic. Daryl?
I've made a big U-turn in this race, so I spent a good few hours going through this. I think Zanna here is a certainty in this. His Fairy House fractions were just really insane compared to the Grade 1 Royal Bond on the card won by Ballymore. Look, you're going to have to bear with me a little bit, but from the first hurdle to the third last, Zanna here ran 2 minutes 48.37 seconds. Okay, Ballymore ran 3 minutes 73. It's equivalent of 12 seconds difference, 12 seconds faster for Zanahir, or 49 lengths faster. And Zanahir did that on the bridle. So I looked at the third last of the line. Zanahir from the third last of the line was only just over a second slower than Ballymore. And Zanahir again was on the bridle. Now, many are going to say, well, Ballymore carried 11 stone 12, Zanahir carried 10 stone 11. Was £15 difference, and if you work out all the calculations, £15 difference, and then do from the third last to the line, you can convert it all to lengths. He was 27 lengths faster than Ballymore overall on the bridle. I mean, that is just ridiculously fast. If he repeats that, nothing's going to beat him, surely. For a juvenile to do that, it's just remarkable. At Leopardstown and the Note Frank, now he only beat Burston by 3 1/4 lengths, but he had to do it off a slow pace there. So he's not only done it on a ridiculously fast pace, he's done it on a very slow pace as well now. And I was trying not to get sucked into the hype of Zanahir, but the more and more I looked at it last night, the more he just looks a certainty in this race. Now, Tritonic is obviously very good, visually impressive. At Kempton, the times weren't great, but you can't knock him on the time frame there, because he may well be able to run faster than that. He didn't force his own pace. He played the cards he was dealt, if you like. Impressive at the from the back of the last of the line. The more you watch it though, and the more you look at the second horse when you're watching that race, the more it's less impressive. So while he is a fantastic horse, I do think Zanahir has got it all. He jumps exceptionally well. He can come off a slow pace. He can go the real gallop of a fast pace. Nothing else in the field has done anything like that to date. Quilixios, for me, I think might just want deep ground. If it comes up good to soft, I'd be slightly concerned about him. His jumping also needs improving, but I would have him as more of a danger at the moment than Tritonic. And that, for me, who did fancy Tritonic a couple of weeks ago, is quite mad to say, really. I think Zanny is a good thing. You know?
Okay, that's fine. At the top of the betting, though, for all of us, Zanny here for Daryl and Tritonic for me. And Andrew, we got that county hurdle up next, the second race on the last day, and we've just got about the 10-1 bar roughly in this. The guys will remember my weekend nap that won a big 22 runner handicap at Leopardstown goes in here, dropped the anchor. I was listening to the commentary driving back from Sandown, shouting at the steering wheel because I'd had a few little trebles and stuff, and he was in there. He has been a hiked up £10, dropped the anchor, but I do think he's better than the mark still. I really do. I think they've, not that we like to say it, whether they messed about with him a little bit in Ireland, it's taken a bit of time for him to get sorted and get organised. And I was really chuffed to see him win last time out. So he's going to be my each way bet in this race. I'm going to stick with him. So drop the anchor for me. Andrew, where are you going?
Third time lucky. Dan Skelton, he's won this race 3 times in recent years. There is an argument that he's actually won it more because when he was assistant to Paul Nicholls used to do really well in this race, and perhaps Dan Skelton was the mastermind behind those handicap winners. Now, if you look at the last 10 years, 7 times the race has been won by Willie Mullins or Dan Skelton. You could just back every runner from those 2 yards. You'd have had 40 bets, 7 winners, plus £80, 50 to a £1 level stake. So when you're looking at the place pot, have a good look at that and consider just those 2 yards. But the one I like, say, is third time lucky for the Skelton yard. He's a horse who likes big fields, strong paces, coming from off the back. Last time out, he was chinned at odds of 11 to 10 on in a 7-runner field at Musselburgh, raced freely in the small field. Musselburgh's a dog track, Stratford-esque greyhound track. You need to be on the front end. You know, trap one round the inside generally wins those sort of races, and that wouldn't have been ideal for him. Now, he did win in a small field at Kempton once, but his other 4 wins have come in fields of 15, 13, 12 and 11 runners. He's going to love this test. He looks very well handicapped on his earlier graded hurdle form this season, and I think he looks the latest in a long line of Dan Skelton plots for this race. So third time lucky, a confident pick.
Okay. Daryl?
Completely agree with Andrew. Third time lucky for me as well.
Show you're working. Come on.
Well, nothing went right for him at Musselburgh. It's a tight track, and to be honest, when they entered him at Musselburgh, I thought, what are they doing? Because I thought he was a supreme contender, and I thought, why are they sending him up to Musselburgh now? He's admitted that was a mistake. The track never suited him. He made a big mistake at the last. I think he still might have won, even if he didn't make that mistake. Now. That race was really dictated by Bareback Jack. It was running a very, very slow time. It was dictated off the front end. Obviously, Bareback Jack didn't do the form no favours, Kelso last week. But third time lucky is much, much better than that. When he ran in the bumper, third time lucky, he ran the same fractions as Appreciated did. He was the only horse in the whole field, other than the winner, Fernley Hallow, to come from behind and make the frame. He just really wants a strong pace. And he'll get that in this race here. Surely he's got to be better than a mark of 143. If you go back earlier in the season at Kempton, when he won in the small field, that was running a good time figure. That's probably why he won and dominated that field, because they gave him a good pace to aim at. He got the same at Cheltenham when beaten by Full Pleasure, but that race was stolen at the start by Full Pleasure, stole about 6 or 7 lengths. So the fact that third time lucky got as close as he did, I thought was well worth upgrading there. But surely this horse is better than a mark of 143. Surely.
You both think so. Third time lucky then for both of you, agreeing on that one. And I'm going to stick, as I say, with drop the anchor. We got the Albert Bartlett up next, Novices Hurdle, and I really like the look of Barbados Bucks as a horse. I heard Megan Nichols talking about him the other day, and what a nice horse they think he is. I think he does look to have a fair bit of big bucks about him, doesn't he? A nice big horse, and he does only seem to do as much as he needs to as well, which I think often masks how very good they are if they only do as much as they feel they need to. When he won at Kempton last time out, hit the front, and it looked like he was having a look around a bit, flicking his ears, but clearly felt happy that he'd done enough Barbados Bucks. So looking forward to seeing him stepping up and having to really show again in a better grade. So that would be the one I would side for. Daryl, do you want to go first for this?
Yeah, this is a weak race. This is 142 is the highest rated British runner in this field, and that's Adramel. If you go through the last few years, we've had a lot of horses rated much higher than that. Like 2020, we had 5 rated higher than 142. In 2019, we had 3 rated higher. 2018, 7 rated higher. So this is a really weak year for the British. I did quite a bit of work on this race, and you need to have an average rating in the last 10 years of 145.9 to win this race, or to finish in the frame even in the last 10 years. There's only 6 horses that have in this field that have qualified for that. So I went back through and I looked at the RPRs, so the Racing Post ratings that the horses have recorded before coming into this race and winning. And again, 145.9 was what you needed to record before coming into this race. Out of 48 entries, I've got that down to 4 just on those 2 bases alone. Ashdale Bob was one of them. Farouk Dillin, Statler, Torygraph. There are others in here, 300 through 5, Adramel, Alaphilippe, Big Bucks that have gone 144, 142 mark. Okay. And I was looking through the market and I thought, there's got to be some value in here somewhere. Vanillier at 40 to 1. This horse was closing all the way on Farouk Dillin at Limerick on his first try at 3 miles. You've got to forgive the last run at Leopardstown behind Gaillard de Menil. Was out the back, just never really travelling. I don't know what the issue was there, but that's why you're getting 33 to 1. But he's had one run at 3 miles. He was beating 3/4 of lengths from Farouk Dillin, staying on really strongly at the finish. Recording an RPR of 144. Farouk Dillin's in here at 16, 12 to 1. And 40 to 1 for Vanillier. I just couldn't have that. Reports suggest that Gavin Cromwell said this is an out-and-out Albert Bartlett horse. He's an out-and-out stayer over 3 miles. But believe your eyes, not your ears. But I thought he was the one going, just using those 2 samples, was the one to back at a big price. The top of the market, Statler, is very interesting. I think last time at Leopardstown, he was just put in the race just to make the run-in for Gaillard de Menil. So I wouldn't take that form totally literally. He's just been a pacemaker there. Whether or not he wants a real tough 3 miles with a stiff finish at Cheltenham Hill, I'm not entirely convinced. He does stay on quite nicely over 2.5, but I'm not convinced. Torygraph is the one I put up for the GG preview, the written preview. I like the way this horse galloped through the line at Thales. I think he's a really nice horse. He's took the same route as Monkfish, so the 2 races he's won, the 2 races Monkfish won. I like that angle. Gives a bit of intent from the yard. But those would be the 2 that I'd be signing with at the moment. Torygraph and Vanillier at a big price.
Okay, yeah, I think Vanillier. What did I see for that one? 33s?
Yep.
Yeah.
That'll do.
33s and 8s for Torygraph. Andrew?
Yeah, tricky one. I mean, we've had Irish winners at 50 to 1 and 33 to 1 twice in recent years. Generally speaking, the winner comes from off the pace. I mean, you could have just bet every single horse who was described as held up in its prep run and finished in the top 3, and you'd have made a fortune over the years. Now, I mean, Statler, I do worry that he tends to race prominently, and that's not really the ideal style for this race. Barbados Bucks, like you, I'm keen on. When he won at Kempton on the 9th of January, he was the only hurdles winner to race on the inside of the track where it was a lot slower. Now, McFabulous raced wide. This is the day Mick Fitzgerald, was critical of McFabulous's jockey, but he was actually in the best part of the track. And then, of course, we had the Lanzarote hurdle with a 66 to 1 shot who raced widest of all, obviously reinforcing the argument that there was a track bias and the inside was no good. So to win round the inner was a run that marked Barbados Bucks up. I think I wrote him up in the Racing Post Weekender a few days later. Whether he can beat the Irish, though, remains to be seen, given how good how good a record they've got in this race over the years. So, yeah, Barbados Bucks of the British contingent. Fakira, I've talked about previously, was quite impressed with that Dublin Racing Festival 4th in first-time cheek pieces when he came from off the pace. And but again, the whole Gordon Elliott situation really puts me off backing any of theirs at single-figure prices at the moment. So I'll side with you on Barbados Bucks, but it's a race I need to do a bit more work on closer to the time.
Yeah, I think we've obviously not discussed yet, but just briefly, obviously, the Golden Elliott thing will affect things to an extent, I suppose, and it'll obviously, I'm sure, push prices out. I think from a kind of, having my own horse point of view, it's silly little things that I think where you're just a punter or just, someone watching racing, you won't quite understand, even the little things of different feeds that they're on, different haylage, different bedding, all the little things that if they do make a difference, if they've specifically moved yards, obviously the ones that are staying at Gordon's under someone else is fine because they'll have exactly the same routine. But if they've moved yards, it is something to think about. Feature race then on the last day is for the Gold Cup. Really looking forward to this. And of course, we got yeah, we're all right in the background. We got re-opposing Alboon Photo. Paul Nicholls, obviously, we've talked about a few races that Paul hasn't won. He has won this 4 times. Obviously, Cato, Denman, Seymour Business. He's, of course, got runners in here. Champ, I think we were all chuffed with the way he ran. Definitely had a slightly unconventional prep run, shall we say, for this. But definitely one that we all thought was a mistake beforehand, not so much maybe after. I was really impressed with him. So I think I am going to stick with the Champ for the Gold Cup. I like the look of him. But really good-looking race, this, guys. And as Daryl looks so excited, we'll let him start.
I'm glad you're sticking with Champ. I really am. Look, this horse is... This horse is... I'm going to say again, it might be head over heart more so than the punting brain, but heart over head rather. But I just love this horse. I think he's exceptional. I think to do what he did a lot of last season in terms of hitting every single fence and still being able to beat horses, most people will sit there and crab his jumping. I'm sitting there going, well, look, he may be a poor jumper, but how the hell is he hitting all of those fences and still beating these horses? It's the size of the engine that you need to take into account. The jumping is something that can always be improved. The engine is something that you can't be improved. Yeah. And what's happened this year, he's come out of Newbury, the first time we've seen him, all up in arms about not seeing him for most of the year. But his jumping has improved and the engine is still there. So this horse is fantastic. He's always going to get people that's going to crab him for whatever he does. Last year in the RSA, I mean, I'm going to reiterate it again. Barry Geraghty said on Off the Fence, he said, when I rode him in the RSA, he was just always laboured. He never was going a yard. I just always had to try and keep him interested. He just wasn't in it. And the fact that he still managed to win, he picked up from the last to the line faster than Politolog did in the Champion Chase that year. So he's a remarkable horse. You go back and look at any of his runs. The Newbury run, beating Black Hop, he's had to dart around the separation fence, and get back onto the course. Looked like he was going out for another circuit. Look, he's a quirky horse, but these horses that have these quirks, you fall in love with them, and that's been the case with me with Champ. I've really fell in love with him. I think it's meant to be. I really do. He's had a second. This is going to be his second start after a wind up. Look, I could talk to you all day about the horse. I really could. The one I'd fear. Let's talk about the one I'd fear. That would be a Plutard. Undoubtedly, over any other horse in this field, I'd fear a Plutard. I think he brings the strongest line of form into this race through that Savills Chase win. If you go back and watch last year's Ryanair, he was staying on really strongly up the hill behind Mid and St Calvados, just outpaced a little bit and then stayed on really strongly. For me, he's got to have a fantastic chance. I can't believe that they considered starting him over 2 miles at Navan. We've got 2 Gold Cup contenders, funnily enough, this year, who are fancy, both started the season over 2 miles. So that's it's something different. I think this is a deeper race because the 2 are in it. I'm going to back a Plutard each way, but I'm going to be having a hell of a bet on Champ. And if I'm wrong, do you know what? So be it. I'm wrong.
We still like him. Andrew?
Yeah, this is super tricky. I mean, Alboon Photo is hard to crab because he's a dual Gold Cup winner, but last year's race didn't work out exceptionally well. And I mean, Champ again, I'm sort of coming more round to Daryl's way of thinking just because of his enthusiasm for the horse. And it was an incredible sight being at Cheltenham last year and watching him win that RSA. I mean, I didn't bet him. I didn't have a bet in the race, I don't think. But it was to hear the crowd and the gasps when he came there to pick it up and come from an impossible position to win that was quite incredible. Sort of spine tingling stuff. Our Plutard, I'm a fan of. I liked him for the Savills last time. I think he's best left-handed. He needs his first run of the season and he's best left-handed. When those have combined, he had 5 runs, 4 wins and a close third in the Ryanair Chase last year. So like Daryl, I think backing up Plutard each way 6-1 is a fair bet. I'll go for Frodon for the purposes of this video and for just, being a bit different. It's rare that you're going to get sort of 12, 14 to 1 about a last time out King George winner running in a Gold Cup. Got the running style that's, is obviously so useful in this race. Been there before, done it in the Ryanair chase. So, I know there are other pace angles in the race, but he's won before when there are other pace angles in the race. I don't fancy an 11-year-old Native River to trouble him. So I just think at the prices, Frodon is probably the one who's a little bit overpriced, but I've not had a bet in the race, and I don't think I will unless it's a Plutard each way.
Yeah, okay. Me and Daryl like Champ then, and I don't think that's a negative to have a little look somewhere else. Obviously, Frodon, Paul, they're adamant that, he definitely does stay. I'm sure the drying ground will help them, and obviously knows his way around Cheltenham for sure. Does Frodon, so you can't knock them for trying. We got the next contest. If I'm at right screen, having a meltdown. It's the Fox Hunters, isn't it? Fox Hunters, we have to whisper now because it's not that anymore. Not allowed to call it that. Obviously, this race has a different shape to it. We talked earlier about the race that they would normally ridden by amateurs. This is the same. Obviously, COVID has changed a lot of things, so we can put this race onto that list. And Andrew, you actually touched on what I'd kind of thought about this race was, the jockeys make a difference. They obviously sometimes would decide your bets because you wouldn't back a certain horse with a certain jockey on, or you would. And of course, the pace of the race and what the jockeys do and where they sit and how they know the horses. Obviously, this is a completely different race now because we're not going to have any of that.
Yeah, and again, like the Kim Muir, even though the new course at Cheltenham traditionally favours front runners, and we've seen plenty win the Gold Cup from the front, like Andrew Thornton on Cool Dawn, for example. But then this race, they tend to go hell for leather, like a million miles an hour, and something comes from out the back of the telly and wins. But it could be different this time around, as you say. We've got last year's form represented by Billaway and Staker Wallace. I thought both of those could go well. But I'm going to side with Red Indian for Kelly Morgan, who of course went desperately close in this race 3 years ago with Top Wood, beating a neck at 50 to 1. That one returned the following year to place again. Has been very well backed in recent weeks and 20s into 10s in the last couple of weeks with William Hill. So Red Indian for me, very tentative though.
Yeah, he's been winning in the point-to-point sphere, hasn't he? Won his last couple. Red Indian. Daryl?
Billaway for me. I thought this horse was given a poor ride by Patrick Mullins last year. Behind it came to pass. I don't mind saying. He just gave him far too much to do and just came home really late, made up lots of late ground. And I was a bit disappointed with him, to be honest. And then he's been beaten by Stand Up to Fight, and then he's just came out and improved the next twice to win by 6 and 2 1/4 lengths. And I just think that he's the improving horse in the field. A lot of these are 10, 11 now. I think he's got a little bit more to come. I do like him as a horse. It's not a race I've gone totally too deep in. It's not a race I'm going to be having a big bet on, especially if Champ doesn't do the business the race before.
I'll be too mad.
Yeah, it won't be a race I'll be trying to get out of jail on, that's for sure. But Billaway would be the selection.
Okay, Billaway for Daryl, Red Indian for Andrew, and Kelly Morgan. The 4:15, if it runs at that time, is next. And we've got Ella May as the favourite at 7-4 at the moment in another mare's chase. Willie Mullins has actually got the top couple in the betting here. Daryl, you want to start us? Yeah,
Willie Mullins looks like he's going to dominate this again, doesn't he? Another mare's race he's going to dominate. He's got 6 of the 19 entries. Ellie May, 6th in the mare's hurdle 2 years ago, 3 out of 4 over fences. Only defeat has come to Allaho, which is a nice bit of form coming into this race. That came over the 2.5 trip. It's very difficult to see past Ellie May for me in this race. I was going through it. I don't think Paul Reevy's going to go in here. I think they're going to keep her back. Shattered Love needs to reverse 5 lengths from their meeting last time out. Might be able to do it over 2.5 though. So shouldn't be totally written off at 7-1. Annie Mack was impressive last time at Warwick. I thought I quite liked that run. Whether or not she's going to be up to the level of these Irish mares, I don't know. She's going to have to improve for me. So sort of my pin came down on Ellie May. Another one at the head at the top of the market. I think she'll go off a lot shorter than 7-4. I can see Shattered Love being backed in as well. I think the 7-1 will look very big. think she's got a cracking each way chance. But yeah, Ellie May again wouldn't be the most confident selection. To be honest, the last 3 races on this card on the Friday, if I'm not done well before these, I'm going to really struggle. So yeah, yeah, Ellie May for me.
Okay, Ellie May at 7-4, and then perhaps if Cool Ruby is going to come out and get on Shattered Love before that happens. So if I've got 15-2 at the minute about Shattered Love, so it's not a bad each way price. Andrew?
Yeah, it looks like Colreevy will go for the Charleville Cheese Grade 2 at Limerick on Sunday, a race Willie Mullins has won twice in recent years. After she won last time, they nominated that race as a likely target and said they'd missed Cheltenham. More recently, they've been talking about it's 50-50, but I think with him having Ellie May at the head of the market, there's €25,000 for winning on Sunday, and I know it's half as much as this race, but I think they'll be tempted by the smaller prize closer to home. Annie Mack, I'm a big fan of. She loves small fields, 5 from 5 over fences and fields with 9 or fewer runners. And if this cuts up, as I suspect it will, then I'd be quite happy to back Annie Mack each way or without the favourite. But I think it's Ellie Mays to lose, Annie Mack next best.
Okay, I agree on Ellie May then, and Annie Mack obviously would be good each way value. Obviously, we got the final race on the Friday then, and as you say, this is not the easiest race in the world, is it? But I'll let you kick us off if you like, Daryl.
I have got absolutely nothing for it, and that is the God's honest truth. I was cramming. I was really cramming, studying the last 2 days. Up till really late last night, trying to find something in this race. I really, honestly need this race to cut up before I can get totally involved. And I know we're on a preview show, and I should have something, but I apologise. I don't just want to throw out any old rubbish. Really, I will get a selection in this race, but we're talking. There's over 120 entries in here, and
so not at the moment.
I need it to cut up. I really do. So I'm sorry, I've got nothing for the Martin Pipe.
No worries. Andrew?
Yeah, some interesting stats associated with this. You can help narrow it down by looking at those horses who ran in graded races last time out. 6 winners from 40 runners, plus £27 for just any horse who ran in a graded race last time. If you look at those horses who finished in the top 3 in a graded race last time, 5 winners from 16 and a very good profit. Willie Mullins having run well in the race at the festival previously. She was brought down behind Indefatigable in this race last year when a 33-1 shot, running off a mark of 140. She looked like she was staying on and might have got into the places. She's only £2 higher this time around. So yeah, very tentative. My Sister Sarah, just for the sake of giving you something to nibble on at this very early stage. But there'll be a second course served closer to the time.
Yeah, for both of you, I'm sure you'll both find more. But as you say, with so many entries, that's it. That's the last race. So obviously 4 days, we give you loads of selections there, and I'm sure there'll be loads more to come, more detailed as well once we obviously get further to the day and we know what's going where, because we've still got lots of questions over all of those things. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've stuck with us for the period. Obviously, do check us out on GG.CO.UK. There's loads more Cheltenham videos on there, loads more detailed analysis as well, even more so than this one from Andrew and Daryl, and we'll give you plenty more closer to the time as well. You can check out all the race cards on there, and as always, tips, naps, etc. from Andrew and Daryl every single day.